Chapter 3048. The appearance of the two gave Qin Xiu an idea of the relationship between Yi Qian and them. The last time he met Yi Qian in the military, she was also with the two people in front of him. It was obvious that their relationship was not ordinary. "Let's talk after we return to China." Qin Xiu nodded with a smile, then nodded slightly at Xia Jinyuan before leaving with the folder. Xia Jinyuan was able to maintain his gentlemanly demeanor, and so was Qin Xiu. The three wealthy ladies of Beijing briefly exchanged greetings with their potential son-in-law candidates in a foreign country, then brushed past each other. Each of them had their own work to do, so they did not have much time to chat. After Qin Xiu left, Li Jinyan glanced at Xia Jinyuan with a hint of confusion in his eyes. Q King's attitude towards Qin Xiu was a little too cold. In the afternoon, the 8 Special Forces soldiers left the embassy and took a car to the airport to return to China. At this time, Qin Xiu was attending a business meeting. The two sides were already in the process of exchanging views, arguing with each other, and expressing their views. After the discussion, they would enter into another round of negotiations. Only then could they reach a common agreement and complete the diplomatic process. Qin Xiu was not the main staff at the meeting, but a simultaneous translation diplomatic staff. After quickly translating the other party's words, he quickly wrote down his own views, opinions, and the other party's loopholes. The Chinese side needed to focus on the negotiation and could not compromise on their interests. Although he was not the main speaker, sitting at the conference table, he was definitely an important person who could not be ignored. In particular, when he raised a few sharp questions, the other party's representatives could not help but break out in cold sweat. This was a diplomatic negotiation regarding the semi-embargo, which was related to the major interests of China's trade exports. Due to the interference of some Western countries, the ports that were originally open to China were subject to a semi-embargo. This was an important negotiation to resist China's trade exports and increase the other party's trade exports. We cherish the trade between our two countries very much. Our country's economy has been continuously growing. Now, a financial storm has begun on Wall Street, and the scope of the impact is so wide that many countries' enterprises have been hit hard. During the 1997 Asian financial crisis, not only was our country not affected, we even benefited from it. Exports are supposed to be a mutually beneficial activity between the two countries. The half ban will not only hurt the friendship between the two countries, but will also cause many merchants to lose the market that they rely on to survive. Qin Xiu, who entered the negotiation, was calm and unhurried. His handsome and elegant eyes contained a sharpness that could not be looked directly at. Occasionally, he raised his eyes, and his cold gaze came out through the thin lenses of his glasses with the momentum of a thunderbolt. He was neither anxious nor impatient, reserved and elegant. With a deep understanding of Estonian culture, he was like a spring breeze most of the time. Sometimes, when he spoke, he even had a smile on his face, using the elegant demeanor of a gentleman to negotiate with the other party in the interests of the country. The meeting started at 2 in the afternoon and lasted until 6 in the evening. After intense negotiations, the trade talks between the two countries came to an end and a preliminary agreement was reached. What followed was repeated negotiations, repeated struggles, and occasional concessions. Together, they would establish a win-win strategy and reach a mutually beneficial agreement. After walking out of the venue, Qin Xiu raised his wrist to check the time. It was already a few minutes past 6 in the evening. At this time, the girl he liked had already boarded the plane and returned to China. He didn't know if she would contact his private number. He hoped that she would. He really hoped that she would contact him. Chapter 3049. He didn't give Qin Xiu much time to think about the girl he liked. There was likely to be another negotiation in the evening. After a brief moment of distraction, Qin Xiu didn't even have dinner. He threw himself into the preparation for the next round of negotiations. It was related to China's foreign trade. Personal matters were put aside first, and national affairs were the most important. Yi Qian's team of 8 arrived at Beijing Airport 19 hours later. Because China's time was 5 hours earlier than Estonia's time, the team arrived in Beijing at 5 o'clock. There were no flowers, applause, reporters, or media following them. There was only the welcome of their comrades. Just like when they went abroad to fight, they went quietly and came back quietly. Wow, that's amazing. When we received Major General Yang's call, the whole team was excited. When we were doing morning exercises, the roars were louder than before. V8 hugged Yao Zi and tightened his iron arms. Not only did he hug him, but he also pounded Yao Zi's back with his fist. He was so excited that his eyes were red. That's great. They actually competed with the Western countries and achieved a good result in the top 5. Yao Zi coughed from his pounding. You don't dare to hug the captain and pound him. So you hug me and pound him, right? You're too vicious. Let go of me. Don't say it out loud. Let me pound you a few more times. I'm so excited in the team that I broke the iron bed in the dormitory. I was welding the bed last night. That thing is too difficult to weld. It took me a whole night to weld it. V8 seized the time to pound him a few more times. Last night, he shook the bed until it fell apart, but he didn't vent the excitement in his heart. Now he felt much better after hugging his comrade and pounding him a few times. Yao Zi whispered, F***CK, and pounded his back a few times. He said in a muffled voice, Fortunately, I didn't disappoint you. Otherwise, when I came back, I wouldn't be pounded by you, but stabbed by you. Ha ha ha, you're right. V8 finally let go of Yao Zi. He secretly wiped his eyes and quickly wiped away the tears that were about to come out. It was embarrassing to cry like this. He wiped his tears and said, You're right. I really didn't dare to hug him. I was thrown by him once. The memory is still fresh. He had just completed an important task with the new captain. He couldn't control his emotions and rushed over to hug the captain who was fighting with him for the first time. As a result, he was thrown by him and his tailbone was almost broken. Only once. The red-eyed sparrow hawk punched V8 in the chest again. On the other side, J5 and Xia Jinyuan gave each other a high five. His eyes were also red, and his expression was full of joy. His voice was a little hoarse, and it slowly drifted into everyone's ears. With you leading the team, we have never doubted you. You lived up to our expectations. Yao Zi. J5 nodded in agreement. That's right. That's why you won't let yourself fail. But Captain, if you really fail, we won't say much. At most, we'll talk behind your back. You're usually so arrogant. Look what's going to happen to you when you go abroad. If outsiders heard this, they would probably take it seriously. But Xia Jinyuan was their captain. He knew every comrade. What J5 said was true. He was just reminding him not to be so stressed. Even if he really failed, his comrades wouldn't say anything. That was another special comfort for his comrades who had gone through fire and water. Chapter 3050. Soldiers didn't need to be comforted. They needed to be firm, cold, and manly. When J5 and V8 saw Yi Qian, they gave a thumbs up. Our female soldier was amazing. It was said that she was accurate, fierce, and ruthless. Those who didn't agree with her were beaten until they didn't even dare to fart. Just like that, crush them with strength. Let's see who dares to say anything. Yi Qian clasped his fist and made an admit gesture. He waved his hand, indicating that he didn't want to be recognized. Immediately, everyone burst into laughter. De Jing, who came to welcome his captain, saw this and said regretfully, We should have fought a little more. Maybe she would have joined our team. What a pity, watching a good soldier become a good soldier in someone else's team. Li Jingyan didn't feel that it was a pity. No matter which team his sister joined, she would always be his sister. He said lightly, There's nothing to pity. It's good to be able to watch her succeed. De Jing, who didn't know what was going on, was stunned. Why did these words sound so different? Didn't they say that they didn't like Yi Qian? Didn't they say that they didn't like Yi Qian? Why did the words he said still cause people to misunderstand? Don't think too much. I'll tell you about my relationship with Yi Qian later. Hu King is very protective of his food. Be careful that he doesn't know what you think. Li Jingyan saw through his comrade's thoughts and explained lightly. He grabbed his luggage and prepared to board the bus. De Jing was the only one from the Storm Commando team. He only had the opportunity to pick them up because he was in Beijing on business. The other comrades were still training at the southernmost sea. They didn't slack off for even a day. There were 11 people in the bus. The bus arranged for them was the team's usual bus. The group of people got on the bus and didn't stop talking. Major General Yang had been waiting at the military headquarters for a long time. The bus drove into the military headquarters. Looking at the young soldiers who had returned from war standing in front of him, Major General Yang's heart surged with excitement. Among this group of young people, the oldest was De Jing, who was only 31 years old. The rest were not over 30 years old. Yi Qian was the youngest, only 20 years old. At 20 years old, she brought back the most valuable personal medal for the country and became the most dazzling star in the entire team. The military was proud of her outstanding achievements. He saluted the young soldiers who had returned with glory. He was proud of their performance. When a major general took the initiative to salute, the young people in the line returned the military salute at the same time. In the conference room, Major General Yang asked a lot of questions before Commander-in-Chief Xia arrived. He was concerned about everyone's physical condition. He also asked Yi Jian about the water on her knees and told her to go to the General Military Hospital tomorrow for a detailed examination to see if she would be treated with Western medicine or Chinese medicine. Yi Jian personally thought that it was not a big deal. After resting, her knees did not hurt as much as before. But since Major General Yang had already arranged it, she did not insist on not going to the hospital. It was good to have a checkup. She didn't want to leave any lingering effects. After returning to the country, the 8 people had obvious smiles on their faces. Even Li Jinyan, who had always been cold and reserved, smiled the whole time. He looked very relaxed. Returning without disgrace was indeed something to be happy about. 7:10 in the evening, Commander-in-Chief Xia, who had just finished the meeting, got off the bus. He didn't walk step by step. Instead, he walked 2 steps at a time. Even the confidential secretary behind him couldn't keep up. Chapter 3051. As Commander-in-Chief Xia walked into the lobby of the military headquarters and strode toward the elevator, he did not notice that Xia Jinyuan's future father-in-law was sitting on the sofa in the guest lounge area on the left side of the lobby. Lieutenant Colonel Xia's future father-in-law, Chief Engineer Fu Yuxing, had just arrived. He was supposed to rush back at 5 p.m. today, but halfway through, he received a call from the housekeeper that old Master Fu had accidentally fallen while taking a walk and was being sent to the hospital. Father Fu immediately rushed to the hospital when he heard the news and only returned to the military headquarters half an hour ago. As a result, he missed the meeting with his daughter, Yi Qian. After returning to the military headquarters, Father Fu did not see Yi Qian and did not know if Commander-in-Chief Xia's meeting had ended, so he decided to sit in the guest lounge and wait. At this moment, Father Fu, who finally arrived, saw Commander-in-Chief Xia and immediately stood up to greet him. Commander-in-Chief Xia, Commander-in-Chief Xia, who had a serious expression on his face, suddenly heard his future in-law's voice and suddenly remembered that he had made an appointment with his future in-law to wait at the military headquarters with him. He had been so busy today that he had forgotten about such an important matter. He immediately changed his direction and turned around to greet Father Fu. I'm sorry. I was so busy that I forgot about our agreement. Engineer Fu, I'm really sorry for making you wait so long. Calculating the time, even if his future in-law had been waiting since 5 p.m., it had already been 2 hours. Both fathers were high-ranking military officers. Their impeccable military uniforms made them look dignified. Coupled with their shining military ranks, the few officers who walked out of the elevator and through the lobby lightened their footsteps. Father Fu smiled and said, I'm the one who should be the one to disturb you. I just arrived and did not wait for long. They should have already returned. Because he wanted to know if Yi Qian had arrived at the military headquarters, and because he had already made an appointment with Commander-in-Chief Xia, Father Fu did not beat around the bush and asked directly. They're back. They're reporting to you now. Engineer Fu, please wait a little longer. After they're done, we'll still have dinner as agreed. The two families having dinner together was a good opportunity for the children of the two families to interact more in private. He could also interact more with his future in-law, Engineer Fu. Commander-in-Chief Xia was a man of action. When it was time, he would take action without hesitation or consideration. In this aspect, Xia Jinyuan was very much like Commander-in-Chief Xia. Father Old Master Fu sighed and said, "I'm sorry, I'm afraid." He went out for a walk and fell. He was not careful, and he fell. When he heard that my daughter S's Commander-in-Chief Xia, "I'm sorry for tonight. I can only apologize to you another day." To his too. How could Commander-in-Chief Xia still be thinking about the dinner? His expression changed slightly as he hurriedly asked, "What's the situation? Is it serious?" "He's old and osteoporosis. A slight fall will cause problems. He fractured his hip. After all the examinations, he's undergoing surgery." Before he entered the operating room, he strictly ordered me to bring my daughter over tonight. I didn't even wait outside the operating room and rushed over. Hip fractures used to be known as the last fracture in life. Once a fracture occurred, it could cause various complications that could be fatal. Enduring the immense pain, Old Master Fu personally listened to the doctor's diagnosis and requested that Father Fu see Yi Qian tonight. Chapter 3052. This was because the old man knew that if there were any complications caused by a hip fracture, he would not be able to survive. While the situation was still optimistic, he wanted to see his granddaughter who had just returned home. Father Fu knew what the old man was thinking. He was also worried that something might happen. When the old man entered the operating room, he did not delay for a moment and went to the military headquarters to wait for Yi Qian to come out. Commander-in-Chief Xia's heart sank when he heard that the old man had a hip fracture. "Okay, Mr. Fu, sit here for a while. We'll be down soon." "Thank you." Father Fu thanked him sincerely. Without further ado, Commander-in-Chief Xia immediately walked to the meeting room. He turned around and walked a few steps before hurriedly turning back. "Mr. Fu, I'll go with you later. Why don't you wait at the hospital first? I'll bring Yi Qian to the hospital immediately after our meeting." "How about that?" Although the old man has already entered the operating room, it's impossible for him to not have a relative waiting outside. "I'm afraid that the hospital will look for you midway. You should hurry back to the hospital first. I'll definitely bring Yi Qian over." After weighing the pros and cons, Father Fu, who was clearly anxious because of the old man's injury, nodded in agreement. "Okay, I'll have to trouble you then." Father Fu quickly left, and Commander-in-Chief Xia quickly walked to the meeting room. Commander-in-Chief Xia's arrival was another round of reporting, but it was definitely not as detailed as the report to Major General Yang. After all, Major General Yang was the leader of the Snowfield Brigade. Commander-in-Chief Xia would not let the soldiers of the Snowfield Brigade skip Major General Yang and give him a more detailed report first. When they returned, the team leader in charge of this competition would submit a detailed report. Commander-in-Chief Xia could then learn more about the details of the competition from the detailed report. The meeting room was not a large one. It was only about 20 square meters in size. There was a circular willow table in the middle. Major General Yang and Commander-in-Chief Xia each sat on one end, while the 8 Special Forces soldiers sat on the other side. When he asked the questions, Commander Xia spoke very quickly and asked the Special Forces soldiers to keep it short. He wanted them to pick the best and the most important parts. There was no need to go into details. Xia Jinyuan immediately sensed that something was wrong. His father must have something urgent to deal with, so he asked them to finish the report as soon as possible. "The SFS Border Defense Army is targeting our soldiers, and they spread unrealistic rumors during the competition that severely affect the image of our soldiers. If this matter is not dealt with properly, it will undoubtedly increase the arrogance of the SFS Border Defense Army. According to our observations, the SFS Border Defense Force has already begun to adopt westernized tactics. It can be seen that this country has fully implemented westernized militarization and has formed a very good cooperative relationship with the U.S. Xia Jinyuan not only led the team in the competition, but also observed the interactions between the Western countries at any time. After secretly observing them, he memorized them one by one and reported them immediately after returning to China. Yi Qian sat with his back straight and his hands naturally placed on his knees. He looked straight ahead and quietly listened to the reports of the two captains. The rest of the team members rarely spoke, and there was no way for them to speak one by one. After Xia Jinyuan and Li Jinyan finished their reports, Commander-in-Chief Xia picked Big Eel and Little Sparrow Hawk from the team members and questioned them for a few minutes. The entire report ended at 8 o'clock in the evening. Even though they were on a tight schedule, it was still 8 o'clock in the evening. When the 8 Special Forces soldiers stood up and prepared to watch Commander-in-Chief Xia and Major General Yang leave, they would leave after them. Commander-in-Chief Xia stood up and said, "Yi Qian and the two captains will stay behind. The rest of you can go back and rest." Chapter 3053. Yes, sir. The 5 Special Forces soldiers who were allowed to leave followed Major General Yang out of the room. The T6 soldier, who was the last to leave, even closed the door of the meeting room. Commander-in-Chief Xia glanced at Yi Qian. When he saw Yi Qian's heart pounding, Xia Jinyuan tightened his grip. It was still possible to explain why he and Yi Qian had stayed behind, but Demon King Li had stayed behind as well. After looking at Yi Qian and Li Jinyan, several possibilities flashed through Xia Jinyuan's mind. There had been great progress in the case of martyr son Xueqing, and Yi Qian and himself had to stay behind. Then how could he explain why Demon King Li had stayed behind? Therefore, it was unlikely that this was the case. However, Demon King Li had stayed behind. Old man Xia even glanced at the siblings. Could it be? Xia Jinyuan's jaw tightened when he thought of a possibility. He had been sitting with Yi Qian to begin with. Now that the two of them stood up, the distance between them was much closer. When he heard the sound of the meeting room door closing, his left hand instinctively reached out to Yi Qian's wrist. "The 3 of you, come with me to the hospital." Old Master Fu went out for a walk at around 5 o'clock this afternoon. He didn't pay attention to his feet and fractured his hip. He's currently undergoing surgery at the military hospital. Li Jinyan and Yi Qian's hearts instantly tightened. Meanwhile, Xia Jinyuan had already tightened his grip on Yi Qian's hand. He used a little force to calm her down. Commander-in-Chief Xia said that old Master Fu was undergoing surgery at the hospital. He could clearly feel Yi Qian's body sway a little. His little fox valued kinship the most. Now that she had finally found her home and her grandfather, she was very afraid of losing everything. Yi Qian was indeed afraid. A fracture was not scary. What was scary was the various complications that could occur after a fracture. That was what she was afraid of. As Yi Qian knew a little about it, she suddenly felt her vision darken. Her body swayed uncontrollably. Just as she was about to reach out to support herself on the edge of the conference table, a strong arm supported her, and a large hand held her hand tightly. "Don't panic." Old Man Xia was in a meeting for almost an hour, which means that Grandpa is doing well, Xia Jinyuan said in a low voice. Li Jinyan asked in a deep voice, "Does the Commander-in-Chief know about my grandfather's situation?" Chief Engineer Fu told me that the old man was conscious before he entered the operating theater. We still need to go to the hospital to check on his condition. Commander-in-Chief Xia, who had spoken, had already reached the door. The two siblings were already restless and chatted as they walked, saying that they wouldn't waste time. The group of people took large strides. Although their steps were large, they were steady and there was no sign of panic. All that could be seen was a group of soldiers taking large strides. Due to the need to insert steel nails and old Master Fu's old age, the surgery was progressing very slowly. When Yi Qian and Li Jinyan arrived at the hospital, the lights above the operating theater were still on. Father Fu did not sit down. He stood in front of the operating theater and looked up quietly at the operating theater lights. He entered the operating theater at 5:37 p.m. It was already 10:10 p.m., but the surgery was still not over. Father Fu was getting more and more anxious. Why isn't he out yet? He had just said this in his heart when he heard footsteps behind him. Mr. Fu suddenly thought of who it might be. So he turned around abruptly and saw his daughter in a well-ironed military uniform and wearing the black low-heeled leather shoes issued to female soldiers. She was walking faster and faster down the corridor. When she saw him, she started to jog. Chapter 3054. As soon as she ran, Li Jinyin and Xia Jinyuan chased after her. In the blink of an eye, they were in front of Father Fu. When Yi Qian saw Father Fu, he was still out of breath. He did not adjust his breathing properly and asked anxiously, "How is Grandpa? Dad, did the doctor say anything? When did he enter the operating room? Why isn't it over yet? Did the doctor come out and say anything to you?" He asked a series of questions without pausing. When Papa Fu saw his daughter, he also saw his nephew, Li Jinyan. At the same time, he also saw his daughter's captain. He didn't have much time to think about why his daughter's captain was here as well. Holding Yi Jian's hand, Papa Fu quickly replied, it's okay. Everything is okay. Grandpa is old and needs to have steel nails implanted, so the surgery might take a little longer. Don't worry, it's fine." His daughter's face was as white as a sheet of paper. It was obvious how worried she was about Grandpa Fu. She had only returned to the Fu family for less than a year, but she was already so concerned about Grandpa Fu. Even though they had not seen each other for almost 20 years, it did not prevent them from being close to each other. Li Jinyan, who was standing by the side, finally heaved a sigh of relief when he heard this. However, the tightness in his chest had not dissipated. Grandpa Fu was old and needed to have steel nails implanted. If the surgery took longer, there would be more uncertainties. It was not yet time to be relieved. He could only say that the current situation was fine. That's good. Yi Qian mumbled. Even his face had turned a lot redder. During the hour-long car ride from the military headquarters to the military hospital, Yi Qian's heart was tormented. She was so afraid that something would happen to her grandfather that her hands and feet were trembling in the car. Her hands were so cold that even curling them up was a problem. She had longed for kinship for 2 lifetimes, and now she finally had it. She was afraid that before she could fulfill her filial piety, her grandfather would leave her forever like Grandpa, General. She was too scared. Now that he heard that everything was fine, Yi Qian couldn't help but close his eyes and exhale a mouthful of turbid air. Only then did the heavy feeling in his heart ease a little. Commander-in-Chief Xia also heaved a sigh of relief. That's good. Old 6, bring Xiao Yi over for seat. Commander-in-Chief Xia gestured for Xia Jinyuan to help Yi Qian sit down first. There was some fluid in his knee, and the pain was getting better, but he still had to be careful. Commander-in-Chief Xia did not mention that Yi Qian had fluid on his knees. He was afraid that Father Fu would be worried again, so he only let his son support Yi Qian first. Then he said to Li Jinyan, "Hurry and help your uncle sit down." I don't know how long he has been standing. With the commander-in-chief around, Father Fu did not have to worry too much. He arranged everything as if it were his own family. After sitting down, Father Fu saw this and apologized to Commander-in-Chief Xia. "Sorry for troubling you tonight. You even brought them over personally. Now that I see them, I can finally breathe easier." His nephew was also with his daughter. When old Master Xia woke up and saw them, he would definitely be happy. Commander-in-Chief Xia waved his hand and sat down with him. "You're welcome. Old Master Xia and Old Master Xia are close friends. You don't have to be so courteous with me. I asked my old 6 to come over as well. Fu Gong, if you need anything, just tell him. You don't have to be so courteous." This was a family matter for his future in-laws, so his family definitely had to help out. Xia Jinyuan, who sat down with Yi Qian, really admired his old man. He was able to let him stay even in such a situation. Father Fu would never let Xia Jinyuan help. Furthermore, he was his daughter's captain. Chapter 3055. He thanked Commander-in-Chief Xia and Xia Jinyuan again. As for other things, he was still worried about Father Fu, so he didn't think too much about it. Actually, if Father Fu paid a little more attention, he would definitely be able to find some clues. However, Father Fu was worried about the old man who was undergoing surgery and only had his daughter in his eyes. How could he pay attention to other things? However, because Li Jinyan and Yi Qian appeared at the hospital at the same time, Father Fu, who treated Li Jinyan like his own son, couldn't help but ask, "Jinyan, why are you here with your sister? Are you resting in the military?" His nephew was on duty at the southernmost sea in China. Just like his uncle, he might not be able to return home all year round. Sometimes he would go to the capital for a meeting, then rush over at night to take a look, then leave in the middle of the night. They were all soldiers, so how could they have the time to stay home? His daughter was the same. After she graduated from military school, she wouldn't have the time to stay home either. Li Jinyin sat down and replied respectfully, "We just happened to bump into each other. I heard that grandfather fell, so I came over with my sister." He didn't mention participating in the competition together. With both siblings present, Father Fu felt a lot more relieved. He said to Yi Qian, before the old man went into the operating room, "He told me to bring you here. When you see grandfather later, you can have a good chat with him. In the next few days, if you and Jinyin have nothing to do, you too can accompany the old man in the hospital and make him happy. As long as the patient is happy, he'll eat well, sleep well, and recover quickly. It's rare for the two of you to be together to take care of the old man. Now that you're back in the capital and happen to bump into the old man, you have to take good care of him. Understand? Dad, don't worry. I'll take good care of grandfather. Brother is a little busy here, so it's enough for him to accompany me. I'll accompany him for the rest of the time." Yi Qian, whose complexion had improved, held Father Fu's hand and said considerately, "You should rest well too. I will take good care of Grandpa." Just as her father had said, it was rare for her to return to the capital. Naturally, she had to accompany her grandfather and take good care of him. There were still a few days before school started, so she would accompany her grandfather until school started. It was a pity that she couldn't ask for leave. Otherwise, she would have wanted to. Li Jinyin was not on leave. According to the original plan, he had to return to the team before 5 p.m. the next day. However, he was worried about old Master Fu. After Yi Qian finished speaking, he lowered his voice and said, "Uncle, I will call the team now and try to take a week off to take care of Grandpa." It was difficult for soldiers to apply for leave, and they would not apply for leave casually. Some soldiers did not even rush home to see their parents or grandparents when they were on a mission. Li Jinyin said that he would try to take a week off because he had been away from the team for too long. Leave was very likely to be difficult to get. No, your matters are more important. Your sister and I will be fine." Father Fu could tell that it was difficult for his nephew to apply for leave. He was also a soldier and could understand. Li Jinyin was silent for a while when he heard this. Then, he nodded with difficulty and stood up. He faced the door of the operating room and stood there motionlessly. His back view was very oppressive. Commander-in-Chief Xia did not have a say in the Fu family's matters. Commander-in-Chief Xia also did not have a say in whether Li Jinyin, who was in the Navy, could apply for leave. However, he could still give some suggestions on who should accompany old Master Fu. "How can you be so busy? Fu Gong, listen to my advice. Let Lao Lu stay and accompany him. He is Xiaoye's comrade, and our families are close friends. Why are you being so polite with me? It's settled then. You don't have to say anything else. The two elders in my family know about it, and they will agree with my arrangement." Commander-in-Chief Xia did not want to let Xia Jinyuan perform. He just wanted to see how few members of the Fu family were. Chapter 3056. Commander-in-Chief Xia thought about how old Master Fu had fallen and was admitted to the hospital for surgery. He could count the number of family members by his side with just 3 fingers. Then he thought about Master Xia and Madame Fu at the old mansion. He had no intention of returning to the old mansion. After old Master Fu was wheeled out of the operating room, he greeted Xia Jinyuan and asked him to take good care of old Master Fu before rushing back to the old mansion. It was August in the capital, and the moon was clear and bright. The crescent moon hung high in the sky and cast a cold glow on the ground. Master Xia and Madame Fu were sitting in the pavilion in the backyard of their house, enjoying the moon and chatting about their daily lives. When a couple was young, they would accompany each other in old age. When they were old, they would be husband and wife by each other's side. They chatted about their daily lives and occasionally argued with each other. They lived a leisurely life. Commander-in-Chief Xia's sudden return with the butler gave old Master Fu and Madame Fu a shock. They thought that something had happened outside, and that he had to rush back to the old mansion in the middle of the night. Master Xia did not speak for a long time when he mentioned that old Master Fu had fallen and was undergoing surgery. When he heard that Commander-in-Chief Xia had arranged for Sixth Brother to accompany old Master Fu to take care of him, the silent Master Xia nodded and said in a lonely voice, Of course, of course. Your Uncle Fu has stood aloof from worldly affairs for his entire life. He and your aunt have dedicated their lives to the country. When he gets old, we should take good care of him. You've done a good job. Let Sixth Brother accompany him. The Fu family has few members because it was hard at that time. This country owes your Uncle Fu. His words were heavy, and each word was like a piece of iron that smashed into the listener's heart. It was so suffocating that the listener's heart felt heavy, and even his breathing became sluggish. Commander-in-Chief Xia nodded. Don't worry. I will make the necessary arrangements. I will not let old Master Fu be short of service. I will send 2 guards over tomorrow and arrange for caregivers to take care of him. After Xiao Yi and Sixth Brother leave, I will let them take over immediately. Okay, do this properly. Also, ask the butler to arrange a car. I'll go to the hospital with your mother tomorrow morning. Hearing that his best friend needed surgery, Master Xia's mood dropped a lot. He was no longer in the mood to admire the moon and chat. He stood up and said to the old lady, Let's go back to the house, old lady. I'm old and can't listen to bad things. Wasn't that so? Hearing that, he panicked. Get up slowly. Take it easy. Old Madam looked nervous. Her husband. She would have a companion when she was old. It was good to have a companion when she was old. If Sister Ding Xiang hadn't left, old Fu wouldn't be so lonely. At least he would have a companion by his side. Commander-in-Chief Xia supported the old madam, while the steward supported the old master. One after the other, they returned to the room. After the old master and old madam went to bed, Commander-in-Chief Xia stood in the courtyard until the lights in the room went out. Only then did he turn and leave. He should come back to visit his elderly parents more often. Xia Jinyuan also said the same to Yi Qian. Come back to accompany grandfather more often in the future. Whether it's me or you, as long as we return to the capital, we will come back to accompany grandfather. Okay. Yi Qian sniffled and sat beside the hospital bed with Xia Jinyuan. They were accompanying the old master, who had yet to wake up from the anesthesia. Neither of them noticed that Father Fu was standing outside the ward. He frowned slightly as he looked at the two of them. Why did he feel that something was wrong? Li Jinyan, who had gone to the nurse's station to get 2 blankets, walked over. Father Fu asked him, Jinyan, do you feel that something is wrong between your sister and her captain? Chapter 30:57. Father Fu was a scientific researcher. When he was young, he gave all his love to Yi Qian's mother. Later on, he devoted his entire life to scientific research and contributed greatly to the development of missiles. Therefore, he did not pay much attention to the things around him. Father Fu felt that the matter between Yi Qian and Xia Jinyuan was too cold to his daughter. He could tell from what happened at the airport. Secondly, Yi Qian was too young. She was still a student. Although she was already 20 years old, in Father Fu's eyes, she was still a child. How could a child fall in love? Because of these 2 points, Mr. Fu did not observe and pay close attention to them. Tonight, Commander-in-Chief Xia asked Xia Jinyuan to stay behind to take care of Grandfather Yi. Xia Jinyuan did not object at all. After Grandfather Yi came out of the surgery, he stayed by Yi Qian's side. Wherever Yi Qian went, he followed. At that time, Father Fu felt that something was amiss. Father Fu, who felt that something was wrong, stood at the door and observed for a while. Although the 2 people in the ward did not act intimately, and they were sitting on 2 round stools with half an arm's length between them, there did not seem to be anything wrong on the surface. However, when the 2 of them looked at each other, Father Fu felt that something was wrong, but he could not be sure. His nephew, Li Jinyan, happened to walk over, so Father Fu asked in a low voice. When he asked Li Jinyan, his hands, which were holding the blanket, froze. What did the 2 of them do that his uncle found out in advance? He did not answer immediately. Instead, he took a step forward and stood in front of the door. He looked inside through the glass in the middle of the door. There was nothing strange. How did his uncle find out that something was wrong? Why do you think there is something wrong between the two of them? Li Jinyan asked. Father Fu quickly pulled his nephew to the side. Don't let them see. After that, he leaned forward to take another look. Father Fu, who was a little confused, took off his military cap and put it in one hand. He touched the top of his head with the other hand and frowned slightly. I can't tell what is wrong, but I feel that there is something different between the two of them. Also, don't you feel that Commander-in-Chief Xia is a little different tonight? It was not just a little different, it was a big difference. They treated the Fu family's affairs as if they were their own family affairs. Li Jinyan thought, but did not say anything. He nodded to show that it was true. Yes, you can see that there is something different about them. Father Fu looked even more serious. It was as if he had encountered a big problem in his research and development and did not know how to explain it. He asked his son to stay, and I cannot say no. This is not suitable at all. But Commander-in-Chief Xia and his son are doing it so naturally. Li Jinyan sighed in his heart. It must have been hard for his uncle to find out that something was wrong only now. When his sister came home for the first time, Xia Jinyuan accompanied her. Grandpa had already noticed that something was wrong between the two of them, but his uncle did not find out until today. It was obvious that his uncle did not expect his sister to find a boyfriend so early. Do you support your sister to be in a relationship? Li Jinyan did not directly tell him about the relationship between the two of them. Instead, he wanted to find out more about it first. It was not for Xia Jinyuan, but for his only sister. Father Fu frowned. Your sister is still so young. How can she be in a relationship so early? Also, she is a military school student. Although there is no rule that states that military school students are not allowed to be in a relationship, this is a rule that everyone has to follow. Chapter 3058. Li Jinyan could tell that his uncle did not support his sister getting into a relationship at such a young age. Well, no parent would support their child getting into a relationship at such a young age, especially Chinese families. They were not as open-minded as Western families. His uncle was a very open-minded person, but his sister's identity was different. If his sister was an ordinary college student, it would be fine if she got into a relationship, but she was a military school student. Getting into a relationship was not a small matter. Father Fu also thought that it was not a small matter. He said seriously, study hard in school and serve the country. Even if you want to get into a relationship, you should wait until you graduate and establish your own position before you can consider getting into a relationship. In our base, there are tons of unmarried researchers in their mid-30s. She's only 20 years old. She's not in a hurry to get into a relationship. It was obvious that Father Fu was against it. Li Jinyan was even less likely to say anything. Besides, he also thought that it was not appropriate to get into a relationship at such a young age. However, the relationship between his sister and Xia Jinyuan was extraordinary. Through all the ups and downs, Xia Jinyuan was the one in his sister's world who sheltered her from the wind and rain at appropriate times. Most of the time, he was the one who urged his sister to climb up the ladder. He was strict during training. Sometimes he thought that he could not do what Xia Jinyuan did. It was true that he doted on his younger sister, but he did not give her whatever she wanted without any principles. He doted on her like a flower in a greenhouse. Instead, he spoiled his sister so much that she had confidence in herself. Even if the two of them were separated for some reason one day, his sister would have her own sky. This kind of doting was far better than giving flowers today, bags tomorrow, diamonds the day after, and houses the day after. He really loved his sister, and it could be seen in his eyes. When he checked his sister's knee for unknown fluid, the atmosphere around him became extremely tense. After Ambassador Qin Dingkong asked the doctor, he was still worried and immediately asked the doctor again. He talked to Major General Yang and asked him to arrange for the best specialist to treat his sister. He did not look anxious, but his words and actions could be seen. Just now, when Grandpa was pushed out of the operating theater, his little sister suddenly stood up and fell forward. Grandpa, who was guarding at the side, reacted quickly and supported his little sister. He said softly, "Be careful. If you fall and hurt yourself, how can you take care of Grandpa? He doted on his sister very much and loved her very much. Personally, he could be considered a good match for his sister. But Uncle had clearly pointed out that his younger sister was too young to fall in love at such a young age. So, Lieutenant Colonel Lee, who also didn't want Yichien to get married so early, curled his lips slightly and silently hindered his future brother-in-law. Uncle has a point. Younger sister really shouldn't fall in love at such a young age. Putting aside the bad influence, the most important thing is that my sister has just returned to the Fu family, and she hasn't had a good time at home. If she falls in love too early, it might mean that she's getting married too early. I think Grandpa wouldn't want to see my sister get married again after staying at home for a few days. Xia Jinyuan's future brother-in-law set a trap for his future brother-in-law at the most appropriate time. As a result, Xia Jinyuan's future father-in-law decided to have a good chat with his daughter and her captain. When can we talk? Of course, the sooner the better. There was no time like the present. Since everyone was here, he would pick tonight. Then, Father Fu said to his nephew, Lieutenant Colonel Lee, "Take care of Grandpa Fu later. I will talk to your sister. People in society are sinister. Your sister is a girl, and she will be easily taken advantage of." Chapter 3059. Li Jinyan couldn't help but chuckle. "Uncle, you should be saying that it's not easy to clean up after someone offends little sister. No one can make little sister suffer. Her fists can make the other party behave." He had seen his daughter's fighting skills when he was overseas. Even Commander-in-Chief Xia had said that his daughter was pretty good. Father Fu's stern expression disappeared. He put his military cap back on and smiled deeply. "I've seen your sister's fighting skills. She's pretty good. However, there were many aspects of being at a disadvantage. Even if she was good at fighting, she still had to be careful. They still had to talk. We still have to talk. I'll talk to your sister later." Father Fu had just finished speaking when a middle-aged doctor in a white coat walked over. He was wearing a military uniform underneath. He still had to talk about the old master's surgery and nursing care in detail. Li Jinyan was prepared to follow him, but Father Fu was worried about leaving him inside. His eyes moved slightly, indicating for him to go in and guard while he went to the doctor's duty room next door with the doctor. After entering the ward, Li Jinyan put down the blankets that needed to be covered tonight. He stood by the bed and held the old man's thin hand. He stared at the old man who had yet to wake up from the anesthesia and said in a low voice, "Grandfather, my sister and I will be watching over you. Rest well." The old man with a head of silver hair and a kind face was sleeping quietly. No one spoke loudly for fear of disturbing the old man's rest. Yichien was actually very afraid of facing this, because she couldn't help but be reminded of her late grandfather general. She kept glancing at the heartbeat monitor. She only felt relieved when she saw that the old man's heartbeat was normal. Xia Jinyuan was worried that Li Jinyan would be sad, and Yichien, who had just gotten over her sadness, would start to feel sad again. He said, "He'll wake up in about an hour. The effects of the anesthesia haven't worn off yet." Okay. Li Jinyan had experienced the old man's serious illness several times. His state of mind was much stronger than Yichien's. He carefully placed the old man's hand back under the blanket. He then looked up and stared at the two of them. "What did you two do in the ward just now?" "What did he do?" Yichien was a little puzzled. "I didn't do anything. I just stayed by Grandpa's side." "Why do you ask?" Xia Jinyuan narrowed his eyes. There was obviously something wrong with this question. Li Jinyan's cold eyes looked at the two of them with a faint smile. He said indifferently, "My uncle is suspicious of the relationship between the two of you." His words made Yichien's heartbeat like a drum. Even his expression changed. "My dad, why would he suspect us?" We didn't do anything." She looked like she had a guilty conscience when her parents caught her in a puppy love. Xia Jinyuan, on the other hand, was much calmer and asked the key question. "So, how do you answer?" Yes. "Brother, how did you answer my dad? How do you know that I would answer my uncle?" Li Jinyan asked back. "Just now, you asked if the two of us did anything in the ward. Then, you said that my future father-in-law is suspicious of the relationship between Yichien and me. It's obvious that my future father-in-law must have asked about the two of us, and you chose to answer. As for how you answered, can you tell me? Xiaojin Yuan's analytical skills had always been terrifying. He could catch the slightest loophole in a sentence. At the same time, he could draw inferences and come up with more questions. Then, he could slowly deduce the possible answer. For example, now that Li Jinyan had said that, he had already guessed that Father Fu must have asked Li Jinyan. Chapter 3060. Li Jinyan had always known that Xia Jinyuan was a soldier who was very good at logical reasoning. He admired him for this. Seeing that Yi Qian was very nervous, he did not keep him in suspense. He calmly told him what had happened and said, "Just now, I asked Uncle if he would mind if Yi Qian started dating so early. Obviously, Uncle doesn't want Yi Qian to start dating so early. Also, he said that he would like to talk to the two of you later, so be prepared." Yi Qian was dumbfounded. Talk? Talk about what? She couldn't help but look at Xia Jinyuan. She pursed her lips and said in a soft but firm voice, "I will come clean later and tell Dad about our relationship." Although it was a relationship that couldn't be completely exposed, it didn't matter if her family knew about it. Captain Xia had done so much for her. She should be the one to come clean with her father about their relationship. No need. I will have a good chat with my father-in-law. Xia Jinyuan took Yi Qian's hand and held it gently in his palm. "Leave this to me. You stay with Grandpa." After that, he stood up and decided to take the initiative to talk to his future father-in-law. Leniency for those who confess, severity for those who resist. Taking the initiative to confess was the best choice. "Aren't you afraid of being scolded by my uncle?" When Li Jinyan saw that he had stepped forward to shield his sister, a hint of a smile appeared in his eyes. "My uncle doesn't want my sister to fall in love while she's still in school. He believes that military school students should study hard in school and establish themselves in their positions after graduation before they can fall in love. He also said that there are a lot of people in their research base who are 35 or 36 years old and are still single." The last sentence was the main point. Xia Jinyuan was in his military uniform. He was calm in the face of his future brother-in-law's words. He didn't feel pressured at all. You can both fall in love and study at the same time. With your grades in front of you, my father-in-law won't say anything. I will go out and talk. You stay with Grandpa, he said to Yi Qian. Yi Qian was a little worried. He knew that Xia Jinyuan wouldn't change his mind. He nodded and said, "Okay, you can talk to my dad first. My dad has a good temper. He won't scold you." Li Jinyan silently looked away. That might not be the case. Just because he didn't know how to hit didn't mean that he wouldn't know how to scold him. Father Fu, who came out of the doctor's on-call room, saw the young soldier standing by the corridor waiting for him. His expression darkened slightly. He was right. There was something going on between his daughter and Commander-in-Chief Xia's son. If there was no problem with his nephew's temperament, he would never mention this matter to the two of them. Only if there was a problem between the two of them would his nephew reveal the news to them in advance so that they could be mentally prepared. Father Fu, who had a high IQ, was not easily fooled. With just a slight move, the situation became clear, confirming the guess in his heart. "Let's talk over here," Father Fu said coldly and walked past Xia Jinyuan without stopping. Xia Jinyuan knew that his future father-in-law wouldn't be easy to deal with, but it didn't matter. He would get his future father-in-law's approval and let him know that even if he fell in love with Yi Qian, it wouldn't affect Yi Qian's studies. Father Fu walked all the way to the end of the corridor and stopped. He turned around and looked at the young soldier in front of him. He was an outstanding young man, but he wasn't in the mood to appreciate him right now. Father Fu's expression darkened. He asked directly, "What's going on between you and my daughter? Tell me the truth. I don't want to hear a single lie." Chapter 3061. Father Fu had no idea what had happened between Yi Qian and Xia Jinyuan. He had no idea what they had been through and what they had faced together. Father Fu did not know. Before Yi Qian was 20 years old, Father Fu was a stranger to him. How could a stranger understand another stranger? Xia Jinyuan understood Father Fu's question very well. No parent would want to see their children fall in love at such a young age, especially when they had a bright future ahead of them. In an environment where dating was not allowed, parents who loved their children deeply would not want anything to happen that would hinder their children's future prospects. Xia Jinyuan muttered to himself for a moment. After organizing his thoughts, he said calmly, "Uncle Fu, my relationship with Yi Qian is indeed as you have seen. I haven't seen anything. That's why I need you to be honest with me." Father Fu interrupted him calmly. His tone was even colder. "You can tell me after you've thought it through. I can wait until you've thought it through." The trial of becoming his future father-in-law was already difficult from the very beginning. Xia Jinyuan smiled and said, "Father Fu, Yi Qian and I are in a relationship. Our relationship has been confirmed for 3.5 years now. Our relationship has always been stable." Ever since Xia Jinyuan appeared in front of Father Fu already had a plan in mind. He was already mentally prepared for Xia Jinyuan to come clean. However, at this moment, Father Fu felt that he was not mentally prepared enough. Very, very not. 3.5 years. His daughter was only in her second year of university. If they had confirmed their relationship 3.5 years ago, wouldn't that mean she was in her second year of high school? She was in her second year of high school. Father Fu felt his vision darken. She was in her second year of high school. His precious daughter had been abducted by the son of Commander-in-Chief Xia in her second year of high school. At this moment, Father Fu was really angry. Originally, Father Fu only had a sullen expression on his face, but now that he was in his military uniform, he did not hide his military might. His imposing manner was overbearing, and he swept his gaze towards Xia Jinyuan like a cold arrow. He wanted to shoot this young soldier in front of him into a lotus pod. When Xia Jinyuan saw Father Fu's face darken, he knew that he had overdone it and that Father Fu would not be able to accept it immediately. Yi Qian was 17.5 years old and had participated in the second year of high school military training. Their relationship was still in its infancy, but it could be said that they had confirmed their relationship. They had even received the support of Old Man Xia, so it was not a problem to say that they had confirmed their relationship 3.5 years ago. Since his future father-in-law had asked him to speak the truth, he naturally had to be honest and strive to gain his future father-in-law's approval as soon as possible. Father Fu was so angry that he almost fainted. "You brat! You, how dare you?" Even though Father Fu was well-mannered and mentally prepared, he did not have much of a demeanor at this moment. He looked around and realized that there was nothing around him. There was not even a single object that he could use to hit someone. Father Fu was so angry that smoke was about to come out of his head. He chose the wrong place. If he had known earlier, he would have brought this brat, who had abducted his daughter, to the storeroom to talk to him. There were mops and brooms in the storeroom, so he could hit him however he wanted. He was so angry. Xia Jinyuan felt very fortunate and expressed his gratitude to the cleaning staff of the military hospital. The corridor was so clean that there was not a single object piled up. His future father-in-law did not even have a tool that could be used to hit him. Otherwise, if his future father-in-law hit him with a tool, he would not be able to fight back. Chapter 3062. Lieutenant Colonel Xia rejoiced in his heart and became even more respectful. "You, Father Fu, please don't be angry. Listen to me and Yi Qian's story first, okay? If you're still angry after hearing it, I'll immediately go to the storeroom and find a sturdier broom for you to hit." He almost blurted out the word father-in-law. If he really shouted, his future father-in-law would probably be so angry that he would jump up and down. It was very likely that he would not care about the occasion and raise his fist to greet his face. He still remembered when Xia Yiwei was 16 or 17 years old and fell in love. At that time, his second uncle had not passed away yet. When he was passing by Chang'an Avenue in the car, he happened to see Xia Yiwei and Ho Zi in their school uniforms holding hands and being kissed by Ho Zi from time to time. His fourth older brother, who was also in the car, told his second and third older brothers that his second uncle had almost pulled out his gun and shot Ho Zi. The car had already stopped. If his fourth older brother had not been quick enough to stop him, his second uncle, who was already the Minister of Public Security at that time, would have definitely flown into a rage and beaten Ho Zi up. At that time, Xia Wei was in his second year of high school and had only been in a relationship with Ho Zi for 2 months when his second uncle happened to bump into them. If his second uncle had not suddenly passed away, his second uncle would have really beaten Ho Zi up. Xia Jinyuan could understand when he saw that his future father-in-law was so angry that he wanted to beat him up. Father Fu, who was so angry that his face turned ashen, harumphed loudly. "You're Commander-in-Chief Xia's son. Even if I hit you today, I'll still hit you. My daughter is a cold-tempered girl. She would never agree to be with you unless it's related to her family. It's obvious that you've been pestering her, making her soften and agree to be with you in a daze. You're close to my daughter, right? You've even met her a few times, right? That's the only way my daughter would let down her guard and let you take advantage of her." Xia Jinyuan almost wanted to give his future father-in-law a thumbs up. He hadn't even said anything yet, but his highly intelligent future father-in-law had actually guessed most of it correctly. The only reason he was able to be together with the little fox was because he kept pestering her. He took advantage of the fact that they had fought a few times and were familiar with each other before he took advantage of the situation. His future father-in-law's idiom of taking advantage of the situation was too apt. Incisive. Father-in-law is wise. Father-in-law was not easy to deal with. Lieutenant Colonel Xia had thought of many things in his heart, but his expression did not change. He was as calm as Mount Tai. "You're right. I did take advantage of the situation. After knowing Yi Qian for 4 years, she finally agreed to be with me. After knowing her daughter for 4 years, he finally got her to agree. There was a lot of information in it." Father Fu, who was so angry that his face turned green, immediately restrained his imposing military might. 3.5 years ago, my daughter was in her second year of high school. You met my daughter 4 years ago. That means you met her when she was in her second year of junior high school. Yes, that's true. On the second day of Yi Qian, the peach blossoms were in full bloom. It was the season of spring that I met her. When Xia Jinyuan saw that Father Fu's expression had softened, his voice became much softer. There was a hint of gloominess in his voice, like a stone thrown into deep water. Father Fu's attention was immediately drawn. Jane Eyre didn't mention much about her past. Principal Chun and I talked a lot, but Father Fu glanced at the young soldier who had angered him just now. His expression turned slightly cold. "But he didn't mention much about you. He also didn't mention anything about you and Jane Eyre." Chapter 3063. A few days ago, when Yi Jifan was sentenced, I made a trip to Nan Province to attend the hearing with Principal Chun. We talked a lot that day, but we talked about Yi Jifan's family the most. We still didn't talk about your relationship with Jane Eyre. So you're saying that even Principal Chun didn't know about your relationship with Jane Eyre? Xia Jinyuan was stumped. Of course Uncle Chun knew about it. In fact, he was the first one to find out. But Uncle Chun talked about so many things about Little Fox, but he didn't talk about his relationship with Little Fox. It was obvious that Uncle Chun wanted to cover it up for them. So he couldn't say that Uncle Chun knew about it all along. He had to say it in a different way. Uncle Chun always knew that I liked Yi Qian, so he always talked about Yi Qian and Yi Jifan's family. Uncle Chun always had a problem with Yi Jifan's family, so whenever Yi Jifan's family was mentioned, Uncle Chun would have endless things to say. He said it in a different way and changed the topic without leaving a trace. Lieutenant Colonel Xia felt that talking to his future father-in-law with a high IQ was simply too thrilling. It made his whole body tense up. Father Fu nodded. "That's true. Principal Chun called me, and I talked to Principal Chun for about an hour and a half. After that, I talked to Principal Chun from 11 at night until 4 in the morning. The main points were all about Yi Jifan's family and the deceased old Madame Yi. We talked about everything that happened to Jane Eyre over the years, but we didn't talk much about anything else. Since you took the initiative to talk to me, tell me everything about your relationship with Jane Eyre. Brat, she's only in her second year of high school. You actually, this matter couldn't be brought up. Once it was brought up, Father Fu's face suddenly turned cold. Xia Jinyuan avoided the minefield and started talking about how he met Yi Qian. I met Yi Qian by chance. When I first met her, she was so thin and small. She didn't look like a middle school student at all. She looked more like an elementary school student. My heart ached when I saw her. She was so thin and small, but she was able to outsmart the outlaws. In the end, she even helped me capture the outlaws in the mountains. To be honest with you, Yi Qian, how he met Yi Jian, what happened between the two of them, how they got to know each other, and how they ended up together. Xia Jinyuan told her everything in detail. At the time, I saw her go through tough training, from the snowy mountains to the highlands, then to the desert. Later, she went to the 100,000 forest in the Western province. Uncle Fu, Yi Qian was really thin and small at the time. Every time I saw her, I was worried that she would be blown away by the wind. But at the time, she was clearly thin and small, but her perseverance was incomparable. To be honest with you, I was already attracted to her. I've never been in a relationship or had a girlfriend before. When I knew that I had feelings for someone, I felt very uneasy. Just as you said, she's so young, and I'm 6 years older than her. I'm also a junior high school student, but I just wanted to be with her. Later on, the more I interacted with her, the more attracted I was to her. I threw all thoughts of age and generation gap aside and started to cling to her. You're right. Yi Qian has a cold personality. She's a girl who doesn't accept people easily. If I wasn't close to her, it wouldn't have been easy to woo her. But I didn't care that much. I knew very well that if I didn't make a move, such a good girl would be taken away by someone else. Chapter 3064. We talked about Yi Qian's training. Xia Jinyuan's voice was filled with admiration. We talked about her battles. His voice was full of praise. When he talked about Yi Qian's good results, his expression was full of admiration. No matter when and how Yi Qian looked like, Xia Jinyuan would always be fascinated by her. He spoke with deep affection, which made Father Fu even more fascinated. There was once when she walked out of the forest alone and helped the border police take down a drug trafficking village. Father Fu, at that time, Yi Qian was really dazzling. She didn't rely on anyone else to achieve what she has today. She relied completely on her own hard work. I've known her for 6 years and accompanied her for 6 years. I saw with my own eyes how she walked out of the difficult situation of the Yi family and how she broke out of her cocoon. Uncle Fu, Yi Qian is just too attractive. She's like a star, not fighting or quarreling, but emits an unparalleled brilliance. When he heard that, Father Fu felt honored and proud. His daughter's hard times were over. In the future, she would have an even brighter life and climb to even higher heights. And this young soldier in front of him, who had watched his daughter grow up step by step, was a witness to his daughter's growth. He had seen his daughter in her most difficult times and seen the rainbow after the storm. It could be said that this young soldier had already left an indelible mark in his daughter's life. I've been with Yi Qian for a long time, and I know how difficult it has been for her. Uncle Fu, she's 6 years younger than me. I looked at her with the eyes of an adult and admired her. In the end, I was deeply attracted to her. You can be angry at me, scold me, or even hit me, but please don't criticize Yi Qian, Uncle Fu. Even if you're a father, I don't want to see you criticize her. In the face of Xia Jinyuan's sincere words, Father Fu actually didn't feel much anger in his heart. This young soldier was too important to his daughter. Although he didn't mention how he had helped his daughter, since he knew his daughter so well and had such a strong advantage, he would definitely help his daughter through her difficulties. Master Xia, Commander-in-Chief Xia, and even Family Xia were all upright people. They would never force someone to do something against their will. Therefore, when their daughter agreed to the young soldier's request, it must be something she was willing to do. Even if both of them were willing, he couldn't bring himself to break them up. Father Fu, whose emotions were surging, did not show the slightest hint of relief on his face. He maintained a serious expression until Xia Jinyuan told him everything about how he and Yi Qian got to know each other and then fell in love with each other. Father Fu's expression did not change. Xia Jinyuan, who had always been calm, did not panic. He believed that with his future father-in-law's love for Yi Qian, he would not do anything overboard. "So, you've decided on my daughter?" Father Fu asked. There was still a hint of anger in his tone, and it seemed that he hadn't relented. But at least he didn't find a weapon to beat him up. Xia Jinyuan thought that this was a good sign. He nodded and said seriously, "Yes, Uncle Fu. Once I've decided on her, I won't change my mind or relent. I've decided on her and only want to be with her. What if I don't agree? Until you agree." Father Fu laughed coldly and said sternly, "You have indeed taken up most of Jane Eyre's time over the past 6 years, but your motives are not pure. If you weren't thinking about my daughter, would you help a girl you don't know? No, you wouldn't help my daughter. You would even think that my daughter's background is very troublesome. It's precisely because your motives are not pure that you decided to help her. Even if my daughter has so many troubles behind her back, it didn't change your mind." Chapter 3065. Xia Jinyuan's smile deepened at his future father-in-law's aggressive questioning. All relationships start with impure motives, and it is a guide in your heart. You know who you want and what you want. If you don't have impure motives, it means your heart is as still as water. "Uncle Fu, my impure motives are how to get Yi Qian, how to fall in love with her, and how to grow old with her hand in hand. That is my impure motive. Everything started because of her." His answer was neither servile nor overbearing, and he answered honestly with a clear conscience. A gentleman is upright, and he has his reasons. A gentleman is like jade, and he has a noble character. A gentleman is upright, and he has a clear conscience. Father Fu commented in his heart as he listened to the young soldier's answer. He had to admit that after listening to his statement, as well as the bits and pieces that he had spent with his daughter, he really couldn't say anything harsh. Family Xia had a good upbringing indeed. His children were all so outstanding. It was really enviable. Yi Qian was a little uneasy. She looked at the time from time to time and looked out of the ward from time to time. When she saw that her father hadn't returned after almost an hour, she started to get anxious. "Don't worry about him. Uncle is very reasonable. He won't casually scold others. Moreover, with Xia Jinyuan's ability, he will make it so that Uncle can't vent his anger. He will even say that Uncle's anger is gone, but for some reason, he is still angry and won't agree for a while." "When did you and Xia Jinyuan start dating?" Li Jinyan suddenly asked a very important question. It was also the reason why Father Fu was so angry. Yi Qian's face burned when she heard the question. She mumbled for a while, but when she saw Li Jinyan's expression turn cold, she didn't dare to look him in the eye. She guiltily stretched out 3 fingers, but she didn't dare to say it out loud. 3 fingers. That would be 3 years. His sister was in her 2nd year of high school. 3 years ago, she was still in her 2nd year of high school. Li Jinyan didn't need to think too deeply to know why Father Fu hadn't released Xia Jinyuan yet. He only knew that his sister was dating Xia Jinyuan, but he didn't know that she was dating so early. How old was his sister when they started dating? She was only in her 2nd year of high school. "Xia Jinyuan, my sister is only in her 2nd year of high school, and he actually let my sister date him." Yi Qian, who knew in his heart that he was in puppy love, carefully turned his head around and quickly stole a glance at Li Jinyan. Even though his gaze was quick, he could still clearly see his elder brother's dark and cold face. She seemed to have thought of something and hurriedly tried to salvage the situation. "At that time, it was just to confirm our relationship. He was busy, and so was I. We didn't see each other much. We only talked about dating when we graduated from high school." That was only 1 year too late. She then heard Yi Qian add, "She's 18 years old. She's already an adult. When we confirmed our relationship, you were not yet an adult. You were still underage." His voice was so tight that it sounded distorted. "When we confirmed our relationship in our 2nd year of high school, we could be sure that he had bad intentions for you. How old were you at that time? Only 15 or 16 years old?" When he calculated the time, Li Jinyan was shocked. At that time, his sister was only 15 or 16 years old. Xia Jinyuan actually liked her? While Li Jinyan was shocked, his face was as dark as Father Fu's. If he hadn't done so much for you and helped you grow up, I can tell you that your uncle would have beaten him up. Chapter 3066. Yi Qian's forehead was covered in cold sweat as she stammered. It's not that he had such thoughts. As the saying goes, it takes two to clap. I was tempted. That's why Li Jinyan glared at her coldly. She was already siding with Xia Jinyuan before she even got married. She felt guilty when she saw Yi Qian. She buried her head and didn't dare to look up. No matter how sensible Uncle is, he will still be angry that you two started dating so early. I admit that he is very good to you, and I can't find another man who treats you as well as he does. You two have been through so much together. You should have received Uncle's support, but sister, you two started dating too early. You have to take a good look at the Fu family's rules when you go back. Family rules? They were the family rules, right? Take a good look at them. Didn't they talk about rules? Yi Qian looked up at Li Jinyan in confusion. She didn't understand, so Li Jinyan explained it to her. Do you know why Grandpa maintained a calm heart even after so many things happened in the Fu family? Even though so many people let Grandpa down back then, he didn't hate them? It's because of the Fu family's rules. Every member of the Fu family has to memorize the rules from the moment they start babbling. Do you know why Uncle loves Aunt so deeply for so many years? It's also because of the Fu family's rules. Why can't you fall in love before you're an adult? It's also because of the Fu family's rules. Yi Qian was dumbfounded. In her 2 lifetimes, this was the first time Yi Qian heard that she had to memorize the family rules. She thought that they were just rules that people talked about. Although my surname is Li, the Li family is a place where the strong preys on the weak. After I was born, Grandma and Grandpa discussed bringing me back to the Fu family and raising me. I had to memorize the Fu family's rules from the moment I could speak. It can be said that the Fu family's rules had a great impact on me and prevented me from becoming someone like the Li family. Yi Qian, who had just found out that the Fu family had family rules, was even more worried about Xia Jinyuan, who had not returned yet. Brother, when I was dating Captain Xia, I didn't know about the existence of the Fu family, nor did I know that I was Grandpa's granddaughter, let alone memorize the Fu family's rules. So, you can't use the Fu family's rules to force me or Captain Xia to do anything. Yi Qian pursed her lips slightly and said something that she knew would hurt Captain Xia. But she had to say it. Captain Xia had sacrificed so much for him. She had said that she would protect him well, so she had to do it. Just tell it to me. Don't tell it to Uncle or Grandpa. Li Jinyan's face darkened. He clenched his fists and lowered his gaze. It's fine as long as I know. In the future, don't mention it again. The atmosphere became a little sad. Yi Qian closed his eyes to hide the stubbornness in his eyes. I know. I won't let my dad and Grandpa hear this. Brother, let's stop talking about this. Let's not talk about it again, okay? I don't want to hurt your relationship because of something that has already been set in stone. I don't want that to happen at all. Okay, let's not talk about it anymore. You should be mentally prepared. Uncle won't let it go so easily. Even if he thinks that Xia Jinyuan is a good match for you, he won't let it go so easily. Please understand the painstaking efforts of Father. Yi Qian nodded and did not bring it up again. There were faint footsteps in the corridor. Yi Qian, who had wanted to turn around to look, lowered his head and looked quietly at the old man who was about to wake up. An hour had passed. Grandpa should be waking up soon. Chapter 3067. Xia Jinyuan pushed open the door and Father Fu walked in first. His expression was a little cold, but he looked fine. His emotions were within the normal range. Father Fu saw Yi Qian sitting obediently by the bed, watching over the old man. He stopped in his tracks and walked over. He asked Yi Qian softly, "Is he still not awake?" He lowered his body slightly and looked worriedly at the old man, who was still unconscious. An hour has passed. Jinyan, get the doctor to come over and see what's wrong. Both of them were worried, so Li Jinyan immediately rang the bell. Yi Qian stood up and let Father Fu sit on a round stool. Sit down. Your knee needs to be taken care of. We'll check it tomorrow. If there's any problem, it needs to be treated as soon as possible. You can't tolerate it, and you can't be careless just because you're young. Father Fu didn't let Yi Qian stand up. He sighed and put one hand on Yi Qian's shoulder, gesturing for her to sit down. Check if there's any obvious effusion. It's not that there's no effusion, it's just that there's very little of it. You can't treat it lightly. You have to take it seriously. You can tolerate it when you're young, but you can't when you're old. Your grandfather also had effusion in his knee when he was young. He didn't treat it properly, and now he's suffering. It hurts so much that he can't sleep at night. His gentle voice was lecturing seriously. Even his gaze towards Yi Qian was particularly serious. Not for others, but for yourself. You have to take good care of yourself. Do you understand? There was no scolding, only deep concern. Yi Qian nodded gently. Dad, don't worry about me. I'll take good care of myself. My silly girl. Father Fu gently rubbed Yi Qian's head. His soft sigh contained endless fatherly love. Li Jinyan glanced at Xia Jinyuan. He saw that this man, who would remain calm even if Mount Tai collapsed in front of him, was still calm. There was nothing special about him. Li Jinyan narrowed his eyes slightly. Could it be that? Uncle agreed. Not likely. The rules of the Fu family clearly stated that to prolong the family line, a man may marry at the age of 20 and a woman may marry at the age of 18. At that time, the daughters of the Fu family had to wait until they were 18 before they could go on a blind date. When he was in university, his grandfather had told him that he was not allowed to fall in love while he was in military school, and he could only find a girlfriend after working for 2 years. His sister had been dating Xia Jinyuan when she was 16 or 17, and they had even gone to military school. How could his uncle agree to it? When Xia Jinyuan saw Li Jinyan looking at him deeply, he looked up slightly and returned a faint but calm smile. The doctor had already come over. After the examination, the doctor heaved a sigh of relief and smiled. There's nothing wrong with old Master Fu. Due to his age, his body's functions aren't as good as before. The surgery took a little longer, and there were 2 rounds of anesthesia. Therefore, it will take a little longer for him to wake up. But don't worry, Elder Fu is doing well. In other words, the time it would take to wake up would be extended. As long as there were no other problems, he could rest assured. Father Fu chatted with the doctor for a while longer, then personally sent the doctor out of the ward. When he returned, he asked Yi Qian to rest. You still need to go for a checkup tomorrow. It's already very late, so go and rest first. Your brother and I will stay here with you. Yi Qian was not willing and immediately shook his head to refuse. Go and rest. Uncle Fu is already very worried about old Master Fu. You can't let him worry about you anymore. Xia Jinyuan gently persuaded him. Go and rest. I'll stay here. I'll call you as soon as old Master Fu wakes up. Chapter 3068. With Xia Jinyuan's persuasion, Yi Qian's stubbornness lessened, but she still wanted to stay. Good girl, don't make us worry about you. Didn't Uncle Fu say that? You have to take good care of yourself. You can't be stubborn just because you're young. Xia Jinyuan understood her well. He could guess what she was thinking with just a slight change in her expression. Yi Qian relaxed even more. The doctor also said that Mr. Xia still needs some time to wake up. You should go and rest for a while. When he wakes up and sees a healthy granddaughter, he'll feel at ease. Old people are most afraid of implicating their descendants, so sometimes they will endure even the slightest illness and pain for fear of causing trouble for their descendants. If you don't want Mr. Xia's health problems to be hidden from you in the future, listen to me and rest well. His persuasion was an eye-opener for Father Fu and Li Jinyan. What was even more eye-opening for Father Fu was how much influence Xia Jinyuan had on his daughter. After his persuasion, his daughter nodded and agreed to rest first. Since he persuaded his daughter to rest, he pretended not to hear Family Xia call him Dad just now. Li Jinyan saw this and was very impressed with Xia Jinyuan's ability to go with the flow. This person is talented. Li Jinyan, who was impressed, said to Father Fu, Uncle, you and little sister go and rest. We'll stay here. No need. Father Fu refused and glanced at Xia Jinyuan. It's not suitable for him to stay here. Since when did he agree to his daughter marrying into the Xia family now? This brat is so sinister. He agreed to it just now outside, but now that he's in the ward, he doesn't acknowledge it anymore? How preposterous. His daughter just came back. He didn't want her to get married at all. Yi Qian looked a little uneasy. One was her father, and the other was her boyfriend. They were both very important to her, but the balance in her heart was leaning towards her boyfriend. Just as he was about to speak, Li Jinyan smiled helplessly and said, "Uncle, Xia Jinyuan is suitable. Commander-in-Chief Xia has already asked him to stay, so you can use him without worry. He'll get used to you as soon as you use him." Did he just get used to it after using it? Father Fu glared at his nephew. When he saw his daughter's uneasy expression, his heart softened. Father Fu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Was his precious daughter afraid that he would make things difficult for her sweetheart? He wanted to make things difficult for him. But I can't bear to. His daughter was reluctant to part with him. So how could he dare to make things difficult for her? We'll take turns. One sleeps and the other sleeps. The soft-hearted father, Fu, finally succumbed to Yi Qian's uneasiness. Yi Qian didn't relax because of this. She glanced at Xia Jinyuan and said softly, "Thank you for your hard work tonight. I'll accompany my father for a while. I'll come and find you later." She had to talk to her father properly first. She couldn't let another difficult situation happen in the future. Without waiting for Xia Jinyuan's reply, Yi Qian turned and chased after Father Fu. She opened the other door in the ward first. This was a lounge for the family members who were accompanying the bed to rest at night. Looking at the backs of the father and daughter, Xia Jinyuan smiled and shook his head. Although Yi Qian didn't grow up in the Fu family, he was as soft-hearted as his future father-in-law. Although his future father-in-law clearly said that he didn't approve of Yi Qian dating, he wasn't against it. It seemed like he needed to be carefully observed. He had already foreseen this day. Chapter 3069. It was better to come early than late. This way, he could pass the test of his future father-in-law and not have to hide their relationship in front of their relatives. Li Jinyan waited for Father Fu to enter the resting room before he said to Xia Jinyuan, "You're not only good at fighting, but you're also very good at taking advantage of the situation. You flatter me." Xia Jinyuan raised his eyebrows. He knew what Li Jinyan was referring to. He continued to display his shameless spirit and said, "Father, what an affectionate form of address. It sounds much better than Uncle Fu. Such a shameless fellow." It seemed like he had already moved Uncle Fu's heart when they were outside. Li Jinyan ignored him. This person was talented, and it was better not to bother with him. Old Master Fu had arranged for them to stay in a special ward. It was very quiet inside and outside. There was a single bed and a 3-seater sofa in the resting room. Father Fu glanced at Yi Qian, who had followed closely behind him. A hint of a smile flashed across his eyes as he sat down on the sofa without moving an inch. Yi Qian closed the door and turned around to see Father Fu looking tired. He lowered his head and massaged between his eyebrows. Father Fu's behavior made Yi Qian feel even more uneasy. "Father," Yi Qian called out softly as he walked in and sat down on the sofa. "Father, I want to talk to you about my relationship with Captain Xia. It's too late. Go to bed early. We could talk tomorrow." Father Fu did not raise his head. He changed his hand to massaging his eyebrows. He did not want to talk about this anymore. Yi Qian's heart felt even more stifled. He reached out and tugged Father Fu's sleeve like a child. "Father, Captain Xia and I have been together for a long time. Don't be angry, okay?" Father Fu lowered his head and glanced at his sleeve that was being tugged. He exerted some strength in his arm and pulled his sleeve away from Yi Qian's fingers. His actions were a little childish. Seeing this, the anxious Yi Qian did not dare to leave the words she wanted to say until tomorrow. She had to say it now. She had to say it now so that her father could understand what she meant. She could not let her father misunderstand Captain Xia. She couldn't bear for Captain Xia to be wronged, and she didn't want her father to be angry. The only thing she could do was to quickly say what was in her heart so that her father could understand how she felt. Father Fu, who had pulled out his sleeves, changed his technique, and used his palm to massage his forehead. He didn't say anything and just sat there. "Dad, don't be angry, okay? I feel terrible. I don't want you to be angry, and I don't want Captain Xia to be wronged. Captain Xia is really good to me. You don't know this, but when I was still in Shuka village, every time I went to the army for training, he would ask his soldiers to keep a close eye on me. He was afraid that I would fall into those obstacles and no one would notice. Sometimes, when I trained too late, the army cafeteria would be closed. When Captain Xia found out, he would ask the cafeteria to leave food for me. If I wanted to go into the mountains to train, he would also ask the soldiers to train with me. If I did something wrong, he would immediately correct me until I did the right thing. He never let me go just because I was a woman. Since she had chosen the military, how could he let her go just because she was a woman? This brat with a family Xia did a good job. Father Fu thought in his heart. He also said that since I had chosen the military path, I had to walk it seriously until the end. He said a lot of encouraging words to me so that I would continue walking and not give up easily. That's right. How could one give up halfway if they loved what they were doing? He didn't expect a brat in his early 20s to be so insightful. Not bad. That was what Mr. Fu thought inwardly. Chapter 3070. After that, Father Fu silently commented on every word Yi Qian said in his heart. Dad, Captain Xia is really good to me. I hesitated before, but I couldn't bear to let him go, so I tried to agree and even tested him. He said that he would hold my hand and lead me through all obstacles together. He said that he would never leave me. Even if I don't agree now, he will continue to wait until I nod my head in agreement. Family Xia was indeed a man of his word. Once he said it, he would definitely do it. There was no doubt about that. Father Fu nodded subtly. In the end, he really did it. He led me through all obstacles and helped me as much as he could. He helped me receive better, more comprehensive, and more scientific training. Yi Qian, who didn't know what was going on, saw that Father Fu was listening quietly and didn't refuse to listen. She immediately picked up a lot of things about how Xia Jinyuan helped her and told Father Fu everything. There were so many things that Yi Qian felt like she wouldn't be able to finish talking in one night. She talked about how Xia Jinyuan helped her with her training, how she battled with Yi Jifan, how he helped her solve some problems, and how he guided her not to be short-sighted and only focus on Yi Jifan's family. If she wanted a wider sky, she should learn how to fly first. These are things that Father Fu didn't hear from Xia Jinyuan. All Xia Jinyuan talked about was how hard Yi Qian worked, and he was the witness of her hard work. He didn't mention at all how he helped Yi Qian or how he helped Yi Qian solve her problems. Father Fu, who wasn't angry with Yi Qian to begin with, leaned back on the sofa as he listened. He only blinked after a while when he listened carefully. Yi Qian was so moved that he did not notice the change in Father Fu's expression. Father, during the darkest times of my life, he was the one who faced them with me and stayed with me through them. From then on, I knew that I couldn't let go of this man who held my hand. I know you are angry because I broke the rules of the Fu family by getting together with him at such a young age. However, rules are dead, but people are alive. Breaking the rules for the sake of doing the right thing will give me the best reward in the end. Dad, even if you want to scold me or punish me, I will accept it. I've decided on him for the rest of my life. Her voice was loud and clear, and one could clearly hear her determination. With Xia Jinyuan's explanation and Yi Qian's explanation, Father Fu was no longer upset that Xia Jinyuan had abducted his daughter at such a young age. It was indeed not easy for these two young people to come this far. Just now, he also talked about what happened between the two of you outside. Now that you've said so many things, I also understand what happened between you and him. All right, go to sleep. After listening for so long, Father Fu dismissed Yi Qian with one sentence. After talking for so long, Yi Qian was not willing to go to sleep. He begged, Dad, if there's anything you're unhappy about, just say it, okay? Don't keep it to yourself, okay? Unhappy? Don't keep it to myself. They had been in a relationship for so long, but as her father, he did not know. He even thought that his daughter had a crush on him, but in the end, That was not the case at all. Since he's so good, Jane Eyre, why didn't you tell me earlier? You even made me misunderstand that you had a crush on him. Father Fu spoke unhurriedly. He was so calm that Yi Qian could not figure out what Father Fu was thinking. If Lieutenant Colonel Xia was present, he would be so happy that he would be humming in his heart. Chapter 3071. Why was Lieutenant Colonel Xia humming a tune in his heart? It was clear that Father Fu was not upset because Yi Qian was in a relationship at such a young age, but because his daughter did not tell him and instead hid it from him. However, Yi Qian did not know that. She was still feeling uneasy, still thinking about how to appease Father Fu's anger. With this question, Yi Qian lowered her head, not daring to look at Father Fu. After stammering for a long time, her voice was as soft as a mosquito's. It's not that I wanted to hide it from you, but I felt that you would definitely be angry if I told you. Also, I originally wanted to be honest with you. When I met Commander-in-Chief Xia at the airport, you told Commander-in-Chief Xia that I was too young to be in a relationship. You also did not want me to get married early and wanted me to study hard first. It would not be too late for me to date after working for a year or two, so I was even more afraid to tell you. Also, you asked me how I felt about Captain Xia. I also wanted to be honest with you, but before I could think it through, you said a lot more. You even said that the military academy's rules forbid dating. I could also tell that you did not approve of me dating, so I kept dragging it out and did not tell you. Dad, I did not mean to hide it from you. Later on, there was no suitable opportunity, so I was even more embarrassed to bring it up. The veins on Father Fu's forehead throbbed when he heard this. So it was all because of his self-righteousness that he had missed out on such an important matter? You two have been together for so long. Why did I think that you had a crush on your captain? Why did I think that at the time? Here, recalling their meeting at the airport and thinking about the interaction between the two young people, Father Fu wondered if he had been blind back then. How was it a crush? It was clear that the two young people did not want him to find out, so they purposely put on a show for him to see. The main thing was that every time his daughter spoke to him, he would look straight ahead with an indifferent expression. He did not even give his daughter a good look. On the other hand, when his daughter spoke to him, her face was full of gentleness. Was it because he was present that the brat was nervous and his daughter was relaxed, causing him to misunderstand? No, something wasn't right. Commander-in-Chief Xia was also present. Why wasn't his daughter nervous at all? She could even talk to him so casually. Suddenly, the highly intelligent Father Fu understood why his daughter could be so relaxed in front of Commander-in-Chief Xia. There was no need for her to hide her relationship with that brat. It was all because Commander-in-Chief Xia knew. Father Fu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Was he a strict father? No, he was a loving father who only wanted to give his daughter the best of everything. Why was his daughter not afraid of Commander-in-Chief Xia, but afraid of him instead? This was a wrong way of thinking, and it had to be corrected. It was indeed not easy for the two young people to be together. Both sides were moved when they heard the story. They were able to go through so many ups and downs together and experience so many battles that some people would never experience in their lifetime. This kind of love that went through trials and tribulations together was indeed stronger than gold. If the stinky brat had finished speaking earlier, he would still have some doubts in his heart. But after his daughter finished speaking, there was nothing he couldn't figure out. He only felt that the two of them were destined to be together and could not be let down. His daughter and the stinky brat were lucky. Compared to him and his wife, Hong Mei, the two of them were much luckier. Was God trying to make it up to him in another way? Chapter 3072. If that was the case, what reason did he have to stop the two of them from getting married? However, Father Fu did not feel good about agreeing to let the two of them be together, especially when he, the girl's family, was being kept in the dark by the man and his son. His daughter was not that easy to marry. Brat, just you wait. Father Fu thought to himself for a long time, but maintained a stern expression that made Yi Qian feel uneasy. Finally, he said, I didn't think that you and the brat had gone through so many things together, and these things became the wedge between you and him. Yi Qian nodded. That's right, that's right. It was because of all these things that she, who had never thought about love before, was moved. He is indeed an indomitable and responsible man, and he is compatible with you. I'm quite relieved. I always thought that you had a crush on your captain, but I didn't think that the two of you were already together. Yi Qian fiddled with her fingers shyly, and her ears quietly turned red. Actually, she did not think that as they got along, she would fall in love with him more and more. She did not even consider whether they would break up in the future. She never thought about it. From the moment she confirmed her feelings, she firmly believed that nothing could separate her from Captain Xia. As for having a crush on him, because of Father Fu's words, Yi Qian finally mustered up the courage to raise her head. Dad, I don't have a crush on Captain Xia. When I realized that you thought so, I was stunned. I don't know how you saw it, but I have a crush on Captain Xia. That's not the main point. Let's not talk about it. Father Fu did not want to talk about how he was once blind. Father Fu maintained a stern expression and focused on Yi Qian and Xia Jinyuan's relationship. Yi Qian pursed her lips and smiled. She could tell that Father Fu was embarrassed. Don't laugh. Be serious. Father Fu, who had been seen through, raised his hand and patted Yi Qian's head. Dating at such a young age. How dare you laugh when I haven't even scolded you? Puppy love is a serious problem in any school. You're a high school student in a key high school, a good student that all the teachers and students are keeping a close eye on. Why are you so bold? Aren't you afraid of being found out and criticized by the teachers? Aren't you afraid of being looked at strangely by your classmates? Was he punished by the school? At this time, Father Fu was not an engineer in the field of missile research. He was just an ordinary Father Fu who had a headache over his daughter's puppy love. Without the aura of a military general, Father Fu was just an ordinary father. Yi Qian, who was not afraid of being criticized, smiled even more. She would be a fool if she couldn't tell that her father wasn't angry. He was so serious just now that she was so scared that her heart was trembling. She was afraid that she would anger him. In the end, the unlucky one would not be her daughter, but Captain Xia, who was guarding her grandfather outside. Now that the rain was over, she could finally relax. Father Fu, who wanted to continue bluffing Yi Qian, saw this and sighed continuously. Yi Qian, who was no longer afraid, hugged Father Fu's arm intimately and said coquettishly, Dad, don't sigh. Aren't you on good terms with Captain Xia? You even said that Captain Xia's family Xia has a good family style, which is why he can raise such a beautiful young man. That's because I didn't know that he had abducted you. If I knew, I wouldn't have praised him. Father Fu glared at Yi Qian, but after 3 seconds, he surrendered. If I knew, I would have spared no effort to criticize him. This made Yi Qian laugh out loud. Chapter 3073. At this moment, Father Fu was very cute as a child. It seemed that no matter how old or young a man was, he would always show a childish side at some point in time. For example, her father and Captain Xia. Dad, Captain Xia didn't kidnap me. Do I look like someone who would be easily kidnapped? Girls are scary when they're smart, but they're even scarier when they're confused. That brat family Xia is 6 years older than you. Not only did he not persuade you, he even encouraged you. Even if you're smart, it's useless. How could you win against someone like him who comes from powerful family? Father Fu firmly believed that Xia Jinyuan had kidnapped his daughter, and that was indeed the case. First, it was seduction, then kidnapping, and then a series of kidnapping and seduction. Finally, Yi Qian was moved. Then, he couldn't bear to do it. In the end, he said that he would give her a reply after she graduated from high school. Thinking about the past, Yi Qian felt her face heat up. She whispered to Father Fu, Before I got together with him, I gave it a lot of thought before I decided to be with him. Oh, you've worried me to death. How could you have a sweetheart so quickly? Father Fu was heartbroken. His precious daughter had returned to his side for less than half a year, and she was already taken by a brat. Dad, there are many young and handsome men in the base. Their character, ability, and appearance are all first class. I was thinking of taking you to the compound outside the base after you started working for 2 years. I wanted to introduce you to a few young and promising engineers who I know well. Then, you can choose from them and see who suits you. Dad hasn't even made a move yet. In fact, he hasn't even made any preparations. You brought your boyfriend to me without saying a word. Even Commander-in-Chief Xia didn't have any objections. I was wondering why Commander-in-Chief Xia treated our family's matters as if they were his family Xia's matters tonight. So this is the reason. The father and son are indeed of the same origin. Both of them have the temperament of quietly wanting to conquer our fortress. Daughter, we can't let them think of other things so quickly. Father Fu didn't want his daughter to suffer. As a father, he had to do something. In the past, when his daughter was bullied, he was not by her side. Now that his daughter's happiness was at stake, he had to be cautious. Jane Eyre, I won't say that everything I do is for your own good. You're an independent, opinionated, and self-aware person. I think I'm doing this for your own good, but in your eyes, it doesn't seem to be for your own good. I won't say these things. But Dad also wants to tell you that I won't object to your relationship with that brat from family Xia, and I won't interfere. I don't want to hurt our relationship. It's not worth it. Father Fu had the open-mindedness of the Fu family. When it came to things that could not be changed, he would always go with the flow and face them calmly. But he had to have his own principles and opinions. Family Xia brat wants to marry you, but he won't be able to do it so easily. As a father, I still have to observe him carefully. This was the biggest concession that Father Fu could make. He couldn't bear to see his daughter, who had not received his protection when she was young. She had suffered a lot at a young age. He could also see that the relationship between the two of them was extraordinary. There was no romance, only love, and they got along with each other intimately. Their relationship was against the backdrop of war, smoke, gunfire, and artillery fire. It was a love that only belonged to them. Such a love was worthy of respect. Chapter 3074. Yi Qian knew that her relationship with Xia Jinyuan had already been approved by Father Fu. As for the observation that Father Fu mentioned, she wasn't worried at all. However, Captain Xia would have to use more brain cells in the future. His future father-in-law's IQ was too high, so he had to be careful. Yi Qian, who felt a weight lifted from her heart, thought of something again. She hugged Father Fu's arm and asked with a smile, "Dad, you ignored me just now. Were you trying to scare me on purpose? You're the only one allowed to hide things from me, but I'm not allowed to scare you?" Father Fu smiled proudly. Yi Qian sniffled and said pitifully, "Yes, yes. I was really scared by you just now. I thought you were very angry, so angry that you didn't want me to be with Captain Xia." At this moment, Yi Qian, who was living under the protection of her father's love, had the coquettishness of a young girl. She didn't have the haze of the past, nor did she have the indifference of being separated by thousands of mountains and rivers. All she had was a blissful smile. In this life, Yi Qian, who had experienced 2 lifetimes, finally found family love. Even if it came late, it didn't matter. I also wanted to object, but after hearing about what happened between the two of you, I couldn't bear to object. Your mother and I already have lifelong regrets because we didn't love each other until we were old in this life. I don't want my daughter to have lifelong regrets too. It's so rare to meet a person who loves you, and I love you in this life. In the end, the 2 lovers finally got married. I hope that after my baby daughter turns 20, you won't have to worry, suffer, hurt, or be sad anymore. I only hope that my baby daughter will be carefree and happy in this life. This was a father's greatest wish. Thank you, Dad. Yi Qian's voice was choked with sobs. She buried her face in Father Fu's arm, and her eyes happened to press on the armband. Her tears wetted the armband with the number of the Fu unit embroidered on it. "Silly girl, what are you thanking me for?" Father Fu smiled and gently patted his daughter's hand that was wrapped around his arm. He gently patted it again and again. Whether his daughter was crying, laughing, sad, or happy, these were all things that he had never thought of before. From not knowing the existence of his daughter to knowing that he had such an outstanding daughter, it was as if the distance between hell and heaven was just a daughter. When Yi Qian heard this, More tears flowed down his cheeks. As he cried, Yi Qian didn't know how he fell asleep. When he woke up again, a familiar face was reflected in his eyes. Xia Jinyuan gently nudged Yi Qian awake. Seeing that her eyes were slightly swollen and bloodshot, he lowered his head and gently kissed her forehead. "Little fox, Grandpa is awake." His mind, which was still a little confused, suddenly became clear. Old Master Fu had already woken up. A specialist and a doctor were checking on Old Master Fu's body. Father Fu and Li Jinyan were standing by the side. Their expressions were not as tense as before. Instead, they were smiling deeply. He's fine. It's my fault for making such a big fuss over such a small matter. You guys don't have to be nervous." After the surgery, Old Master Fu was in good spirits. Although his voice was a little weak, his speech and thoughts were very clear. After the specialist finished the examination, he smiled and said to Father Fu, "Old Master Fu is doing well. There are no problems. We will take care of Old Master Fu 24/7. If there are any problems, we will resolve them immediately until Old Master Fu is discharged safely." Yi Qian, who had just walked out of the resting room, happened to hear this. Her face bloomed like a flower. Chapter 3075. Everything was going well at the moment, which indicated that everything was progressing in a good direction. As for complications, as long as he took good care of them, they would definitely not appear. Father Fu smiled as he sent the experts and doctors out of the ward. Yi Qian sat by the bed and fed the old man water spoonful by spoonful. "Your father was obedient this time and really brought you back. How rare, how rare." With his granddaughter and grandson serving him, as well as the grandson-in-law who was always by his granddaughter's side, the old man looked at the three young and energetic faces and then looked at the well-ironed military uniform. He did not feel the pain in his body, and his eyes were full of smiles. The more he lived, the more he looked forward to his future. When Father Fu came in, he happened to see Xia Jinyuan and Yi Qian holding the old man's hand. The old man said, "You two don't have to worry. Grandpa is old, so it's inevitable for me to get sick and hurt. I fell because I was careless, and not because of anything else. Xiao Xia, my granddaughter is such a good person. You have to take good care of her and don't let her suffer, understand?" Xia Jinyuan's expression was full of respect for the old man who had made great contributions to the country. Even though he had gone through so many hardships, he still served the country without any complaints. "Grandpa, don't worry. I won't let her suffer any grievances. If you feel that I have wronged her one day, you can send my eldest brother to beat me up. That's a good idea. Grandpa will remember it." The old man was extraordinarily happy. He had lived for more than 80 years. So how could he not know what was sincere and what was polite? The grandson-in-law, chosen by his granddaughter, was speaking from the bottom of his heart. Li Jinyan smiled and said, "Grandpa, don't worry. With me around, no one can bully little sister. Also, little sister won't let herself be bullied. I'm afraid that she would have already beaten up her boyfriend before I even did anything." "That's right, Grandpa. If he dares to bully me, I will retaliate on the spot. I won't hold back my anger until the next day." Yi Qian even waved his fist at Xia Jinyuan. The young man's interaction made the old man's mood much better. Even his pale face became much rosier after the surgery. When Father Fu saw this, he felt completely helpless about his blindness back then. Even the old man knew about this, but he didn't see any clues. However, he felt much more comfortable in his heart. At the very least, the elders in the family knew that their daughter had interacted with that brat with a family Xia, unlike him, who knew nothing about it. The old man didn't stay awake for too long. After chatting for about half an hour, he started to feel tired. Father Fu didn't let him continue talking. He signaled for the three people who were teasing the old man to leave first. He wanted the old man to calm down and have a good sleep. With the three of them around, the old man really couldn't bear to sleep. Less than 3 minutes after the three of them got up and left, the old man closed his eyes and fell asleep. Xia Jinyuan called the commander-in-chief. Before he left, Commander-in-Chief Xia instructed him to call the Commander-in-Chief when the old man woke up. The next day, without telling the old man, Yi Qian accompanied Xia Jinyuan to have his knee examined. Commander-in-Chief Xia brought Master Xia and old Madame Hua to the General Administration Hospital to visit the old man. They weren't the only ones. Xia Jinyuan's eldest uncle, youngest uncle, and Xia Yui, who had studied under the old man before, were also with them. He was Xia Jinyuan's youngest uncle's son and ranked third among the grandchildren. When the group of people arrived at the hospital, the corridor suddenly became even quieter. The nurses and doctors all held their breaths. Chapter 3076. Could they not hold their breaths? Those who live in this building are all very important people. They are all ministers who have made great contributions to the country. Even if they have retired from their posts, their influence is still there. There will always be important people from all walks of life coming to visit. Family Xia's people came. The old chief, the old minister, the lieutenant general, the major general, the senior colonel. They were all chiefs, and their military ranks were frighteningly high. The nurses and doctors also often met important people, but today's lineup was still a little too big. Father Fu saw so many people come to Family Xia at once. Without needing him to greet them, Commander-in-Chief Xia and his brothers first invited Old Chief and Old Madame Fu into the ward while they stood outside. They did not rush up to disturb Old Master Fu, who had just had a light breakfast. Mr. Fu, congratulations. Old Master Fu is in good spirits and will recover quickly. You don't have to worry too much. Commander-in-Chief Xia was still the same as last night. He did not look like a military officer, but more like a civil official. He looked very happy. He was really happy that old Master Fu's surgery was successful. Father Fu did not know whether to be angry or not. If he was angry, it would make him look petty. If he was not angry, it would make him feel uncomfortable. However, Father Fu, who was still gentlemanly, did not act impolitely. He smiled politely and said, "Thank you for taking care of Yuan last night. I feel very sorry for running up and down. Old Chief and old Madame Fu are already old, and Yuan rarely comes back to the capital. You don't have to trouble Yuan anymore. I still have my daughter, Yi Qian, and 2 nurses to take care of us. It will be enough. Let Yuan go back to Family Xia to accompany Old Chief and old Madame Fu." In the wee hours of the morning, when Xia Jinyuan called home to tell Commander-in-Chief Xia that old Master Fu had woken up, he also mentioned that his future father-in-law already knew about his relationship with Yi Qian. Because of this unexpected discovery, his future father-in-law was angry and he did not know what he would do next. At the same time, he said, "Old man Xia, whether or not your daughter-in-law can successfully marry into a Family Xia, you have to help me. You don't have to put in a good word for me, and you don't have to worry that I won't be able to please my future father-in-law. You just need to explain your attitude, even though you already knew that I was with Yi Qian." In other words, his future father-in-law was unhappy that his future in-laws knew about the matter but didn't say anything. Commander-in-Chief Xia slapped his forehead, indicating that he would solve his own problem. Now that he saw his future in-laws, Commander-in-Chief Xia acted as if he didn't know what had happened last night. He said calmly, "Where are you going? Just let him stay and guard the place. He can't disappear just because something happened. If there's nothing, he will shamelessly come over. Fu Gong, make good use of him, don't stand on ceremony. To tell you the truth, I'm really happy to see you train him and smooth out his edges. It'll be better for him in the future." Father Fu smiled faintly. "What qualifications do I have to train you on? How can you not? Since Old Sixth wants to spend his life with Xiao Yi, how can he succeed if he doesn't train him well? Fu Gong, my Old Sixth, used to be a reckless person. Later, he entered the military academy and became a lot more restrained. However, sometimes I still don't find him pleasing to the eye. I used to remind Xiao Yi not to be nice to him. He's a person who knows how to go with the flow. You have to give him the cold shoulder before taking him in. Fu Gong, you don't know. Ever since I saw Xiao Yi pointing to the east, my Old Sixth didn't dare to go west. At that time, I was really relieved. I've finally met someone who can subdue him. Fu Gong, I really want to thank Xiao Yi. Just like that, Commander-in-Chief Xia mercilessly betrayed his son. Chapter 3077. It wasn't a repeat. It was a chapter that I missed before. I added it later. There was a problem with caching, so you would see a repeat, but I didn't. Previously, I said that Cloud Rising had a repeat function and wouldn't allow multiple posts. A reader said that she deleted her post and didn't allow others to repeat it to prove her innocence. This post was pinned to the top. The system would automatically delete the post. The little vixens who had posted long comments had personally experienced it. This paragraph won't be charged. It couldn't be helped. His future in-laws were clearly still holding back the anger in their hearts. He had to let this anger dissipate. And the person who lit this fire was none other than his sixth brother. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Then, I'll stand on the side of my future in-laws. I'll criticize old six together and preach together. I'll unite with my future in-laws so that I can protect the two families from behind and become in-laws. It had to be said that Commander-in-Chief Xia's tactics were brilliant. Father Fu heard this and felt that something was wrong. Commander-in-Chief Xia, you mean you're not satisfied with the two of them? Commander-in-Chief Xia immediately explained, No, it's not that I'm not satisfied with the two of them. I'm very satisfied with Xiao Yi and I like her very much. She's a very good girl. I couldn't be happier to see the two of them together. I'm afraid that my sixth brother isn't good enough for Xiao Yi. Back then, when I found out that Xiao Yi and sixth brother were together, I had a serious talk with Xiao Yi. Xiao Yi told me very clearly that she was a high school student and wasn't suitable for a relationship. She also told me that she was too far away from sixth brother. She even said that if she really wanted to be in a relationship, she wanted to be his most trusted comrade on the battlefield and a lover who could fight side by side with him. I was shocked at that time. Xiao Yi was only in her second year of high school, and she was already so perceptive. I immediately knew that my son had found the right person. I've seen Xiao Yi's hard work all these years. I've seen her step by step steadily become a comrade who can entrust their backs to each other and a lover who can fight side by side. I'm very happy and proud for these two young people. Xiao Yi is a child with a very clear goal. She relied on herself to achieve her goal and received everyone's approval. Just based on this, I really think that sixth brother is not worthy enough for Xiao Yi to marry him. At such a young age, you didn't rely on others and relied on your own strength to reach where you are today. Although old six has helped little Yi a lot, if it wasn't for little Ye's extraordinary talent, how could you have reached where you are today? Fu Gong, I'll be honest with you today. I'm looking forward to becoming in-laws with you, and I'm also looking forward to Xiao Yi becoming my daughter-in-law. However, I don't wish for little Yi to marry old six so soon. Old sixth is still lacking. He needs to do better so that Xiao Yi can entrust her life to him. For a moment, Father Fu didn't know how to respond. He had never seen anyone so bluntly think that his son wasn't outstanding enough. You're asking too much. Yuan is also very outstanding. He had to say something fair. He is indeed outstanding and is a good match for Xiao Yi. However, he is a man. A man has to be more responsible so that his wife and children at home can be happier. Therefore, old sixth has to continue working hard. I hope that the two of them can be together for a long time. Naturally, I hope that he can give Xiao Yi a happy family. Therefore, Fu Gong, I have to ask you. You must train him well. Sure enough, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Father Fu felt much better after hearing this. In the ward, Xia Jinyuan had no idea that the two fathers were discussing how to train him. He was accompanying Master Xia, old Madame Fu, and old Master Fu as they talked. When he found out, Xia Jinyuan wanted to challenge Commander-in-Chief Xia to a one-on-one fight. Yi Qian, on the other hand, was laughing so hard that he doubled over. It was normal for Commander-in-Chief Xia to say those words in front of her father. During the military training years ago, when she sat in the same car as Commander-in-Chief Xia for the first time, the Commander-in-Chief also said the same thing about Captain Xia. It was normal, too normal. Chapter 3078. Xia Jinyuan, who did not know that his two fathers had already united the front, was being praised by old Master Fu. Yin Kuei, your grandson is really good. He has been watching over me since last night. It's broad daylight now. I asked him to rest, but he didn't agree. He even said that it's rare for him to come home. So how could he be lazy? He even asked me not to complain that he's taking up space and not to chase him away. Oh, I'm laughing so hard that I'm crying. I'm not complaining that he's taking up space. I'm just worried that he'll collapse from exhaustion. As he spoke, old Master Fu could not help but laugh again. This grandson-in-law of his had a good character, was polite, filial, and capable. He really could not find any fault with him. He was the best. Old Master Xia and old Madam Xia both looked at their grandson who had been praised by name. The two elders smiled and said, "He used to be a hooligan. Later on, he learned well and changed his personality. The two of us are very surprised. Although this child was a rascal when he was young, he was very filial. When he was young, his father's colleague in the government gave him a piece of cake. He insisted on bringing it back for the two of us. He held it carefully all the way home, afraid that the cake would break. Even when he was in the car, he carried it in his arms all the way home. How old was he at that time? He was 3 years old. He was just a little radish. When he didn't know anything, he kept thinking that I had just pulled out my tooth. He couldn't eat the hard stuff. He had to eat the soft stuff. His grandmother just casually mentioned it, but he remembered it in his heart. He brought the whole cake back and stuffed into my mouth." Commander-in-Chief Xia had a look of disdain when he talked about his son, while Master Xia had a look of relief when he talked about Xia Jinyuan. Old Master Fu also thought that Xia Jinyuan was a good person, so he nodded repeatedly. "So, just let him watch over you. Don't worry about his body being unable to take it. If he doesn't watch over you now, when will he? It's the same with raising a grandson. He should take care of the elders in the family." Old Madame Fu, who used to be the Minister of Culture, spoke reasonably. She was so clear that Xia Jinyuan kept nodding. That's right, that's right. Xia Jinyuan was the only one accompanying the young man in the ward. Li Jinyan accompanied Yi Qian for a knee checkup. He had to return to the army in the afternoon, so he only had 5 hours to spend with his family. Sitting in the specialist's office, they didn't know that Family Xia had sent people to the house, and there were even a few elders. The specialist in his early 50s looked at the radiographic films very seriously and made a diagnosis based on the radiographic films. There are indeed not many problems, and there is no need for surgery. From the radiographic films, the unknown fluid in the knee has disappeared. It can be seen that it has been absorbed by itself. Self-absorption is far better than minor surgery. This is a good sign. Continue to take anti-inflammatory medicine for a few more days and apply the Chinese medicine ointment externally. If it's convenient, heat it with sand and apply it to your knees to promote blood circulation. But you can't work too hard during this period of time. Your knees can't be too tired. You need to rest more. At the end of the day, she was young and had a good foundation, so she didn't suffer much. The specialist glanced at Yi Qian's military uniform and immediately recognized that she was a military academy student. He smiled and said, "It's fine if you're a student. I'll write a medical report for you. You can pass it to your platoon leader when you go back. Your company commander will agree to let you rest and cancel your morning and evening training." Yi Qian was the platoon leader, not the platoon leader of the entire class, but the platoon leader of the company. When Li Jinyan heard that there was no need for surgery and that the inconspicuous fluid had been absorbed by itself, his tense heart finally relaxed. Chapter 3079. The body was an asset. Even though the special forces had to go through a lot of training and they had countless injuries, no one wanted to have an old injury that would affect their lives in the future. Sometimes it was unavoidable, and sometimes it could be avoided, so they would try their best to avoid it. Yi Jian heaved a sigh of relief in her heart. This was for the best. Walking out of the specialist's office, a nurse pushed the door open and said to the specialist who was treating the next patient, "Professor, the wife of the Deputy Chief of Staff is here. You have 2 more patients waiting here. What do you think?" Yi Qian and Li Jinyan heard every word the nurse said. The wife of the Deputy Chief of Staff Mrs. Li. She had also come to the hospital today for treatment and had already arrived. However, they were all unimportant people, so they didn't feel much when they heard it. Li Jinyan was even more so. Even though Mrs. Li was his aunt, they weren't close. They weren't even related by blood. Mrs. Li didn't treat Li Jinyan as her nephew, and Li Jinyan didn't treat Mrs. Li as his aunt either. He didn't need to pay attention to people who weren't important to him. Give a note to your company commander when you get back to school. If he doesn't agree, call me again. Li Jinyan, who was still holding the medical report in his hand, reminded the family member he cared about, don't force yourself. A knee injury is not a small matter. Don't force yourself and persist. Don't lose the big picture for the small. Do you hear me? She was afraid that Yi Qian's company commander wouldn't agree, so she had to grit her teeth and persist. Yi Qian saw that his brother was so nervous and couldn't help but laugh. He won't disagree. The medical report is here. I got an excellent physical fitness score last semester, so I can slack off this semester and take care of my knee first. It just so happens that the laboratory is the focus this year. I'll just go to the laboratory every day. There's a seat, so I don't have to stand. As he spoke, Yi Qian saw a pair of mother and daughter walking towards them. He paused for a moment as he spoke. They really bumped into each other, and what a coincidence. Du Jiayi also saw Yi Qian and Yi Qian's cousin, Li Jinyan. Seeing this, the corners of Du Jiayi's mouth curved slightly, revealing a hint of disdain. Yi Ying's cousin was quite capable. She even knew her cousin. She was a female soldier from a village, but she knew the young masters of the capital step by step. She was indeed capable. No wonder Yi Ying. Oh no, she should be called Sun Ying now. No wonder Sun Ying couldn't beat her. This cousin of hers was famous for his cold temperament. He didn't like to interact with others, and even his family members were cold and indifferent. They were even worse off than strangers. Yet he was chatting and laughing with Sun Ying's cousin. It seemed like he cared for her a lot. That woman was indeed skilled. She was able to coax the cold-hearted Li Jinyan into caring for her. With Sun Ying's dirty tricks, how could she win over Li Jinyan's woman? A female soldier chatting and laughing with male soldiers every day. She even ordered male soldiers to do this and that. In the end, she still looked pure and innocent. Sun Ying couldn't compare to her acting skills. Madame Li naturally saw Yi Qian as well. Her face was filled with obvious surprise. Wasn't this Yi Jifan's niece? What was her name again? Why was she here? Also, why was Li Jinyan beside her? When did they meet? When did their relationship become so good? Chapter 3080. Madame Li did not take Yi Qian to heart, so she did not remember Yi Qian's name. However, Du Jiayi remembered this female soldier who had humiliated her on the snowy mountain. She had been investigating this female soldier for a long time, but she could not find anything. She only knew that she was a student. Yi Qian, long time no see. Compared to Sun Ying's overbearingness and haughtiness, Du Jiayi was much more magnanimous. With an appropriate smile, a hint of haughtiness, and a little bit of politeness, the image of a well-educated and cultured lady from a noble family immediately leaped onto the paper. I didn't expect to meet you here. What a surprise. Cousin, long time no see. Are you here to accompany her to the doctor? Cousin, you're so biased. You only know how to accompany outsiders, but not your family? Li Jinyan did not want to pay attention to her. He glanced at her and said to Yi Qian, let's go. Li Jinyan felt that was a waste of time to say another word when he met the Li family. Yi Qian felt sorry for her brother. What kind of dangerous place was the Li family to make her brother so cold? When Madame Li appeared, she could clearly feel that her brother's aura had become exceptionally cold. It was just like when they first met. The snow on the snowy mountain peak would never melt. There was only silence and coldness. She nodded slightly and did not look at Du Jiayi. She left with Li Jinyan. Du Jiayi sneered inwardly at Yi Jian's indifference, but on the surface, she was all smiles. Yi Jian, my cousin has never taken such good care of a girl before. You're so lucky to have gained my cousin's favor. Looks like I'll have to call you cousin-in-law soon. Then I really have to congratulate you for finding such a good husband like my cousin. Her voice was neither loud nor soft. It was crisp and clear. There was no sarcasm in it at all. Instead, it was full of sincerity. Li Jinyan was also the kind of person who didn't care about people who had nothing to do with him, no matter how much trouble they caused. As long as they didn't say anything too outrageous, he would completely treat them as if they were invisible. In this aspect, Yi Qian was very similar. Old Master Fu and Father Fu did the same. Jinyan, you're getting worse the older you get. You don't even have basic manners. Did you feed everything you learned in the past to the dogs? Or did the Fu family not teach you well at all? That's why you raised such a rude and disrespectful person like you. Madame Li's words were much more vicious than Du Jiai's. She scolded Li Jinyan and the Fu family at the same time. Yi Qian was not going to let her scold the Fu family. Let me do it. Li Jinyan stopped her in a low voice. She still couldn't reveal her identity and couldn't let others know too much about it. He turned around and glanced coldly at Madame Li. The Fu family's upbringing is to treat people who have nothing to do with you with indifference, whereas the second wife's upbringing is to bite everyone she sees. She's like a mad dog with no manners to speak of. When Yi Qian, who was stopped, heard this, he was dumbfounded. What did she just hear? What did she just hear? Did she hear wrongly? She didn't know that her brother had such a vicious tongue. The moment he opened his mouth, the high and mighty Madame Li trembled in anger. Du Jiai was also so angry that her expression changed drastically. Li Jinyan, you're too presumptuous. Madame Li scolded. Your surname is also Li, but you're siding with outsiders. You even came to deal with your aunt. Is this how the Fu family taught you? Chapter 3081. Madame Li was a double standard. She was allowed to criticize others, and it was natural for her to criticize others. However, if others criticized her, it was the opposite. With such a double standard, it was no wonder that she raised a daughter like Du Jiai, who was two-faced. You don't have to remind me again and again who you are to me. Madame Li, you should know best who you are. Li Jinyan had seen such things many times. After seeing it many times, he calmed down. He would not be angered by Madame Li and Li Chuhai to the point of smashing things, nor would he be so angry that he would feel stifled in his heart. He did not have to argue with the other party until his face turned red every time. He only needed to crush the other party's scruples and then attack fiercely. In the end, it was not him who was angered, but the other party who started the fight who lost first. At this moment, Madame Li, who had lost all her elegance, was undoubtedly the first to lose. Li Jinyan was getting older and more mature and capable. He was no longer the young man who could not say a word after being scolded by her and only knew how to sulk. Li Jinyan deliberately chose to talk about what she hated the most. The more scruples she had, the more she did not want others to know whose daughter she was and how she entered the Li family. In ancient times, there were mistresses who were despised by others. Today, there were mistresses who were despised by others. Madame Li did not move into the main residence of the Li family until she was in her teens. Before that, she lived outside with Li Chuhai and her husband, old Madame Li, who was also her brother-in-law, living a life of being pointed at and gossiped about. When she was in her teens, she was sensitive and sensible. Being pointed at and gossiped about left an indelible shadow in Madame Li's heart. Later, whenever she met someone who came out of the street where she lived, everything would go wrong. Those neighbors who were secretly embarrassed did not know why everything went wrong for them. When Madame Li was young, she knew how to plan step by step carefully. Now that she was old and had become a grandmother, she became more and more arrogant. Not only did her temper not decrease with age, but she became more and more self-opinionated and arrogant. It was mainly because her husband was capable and her children were capable. In addition, she had been bullied too much when she was young. Madame Li, who had always been despised by others, suddenly had the opportunity to despise others. Naturally, she vented all the indifference she had suffered when she was young. This also matched the old saying, "You look like a crown prince in a dragon robe," but you're a rat in a house. That was why when Madame Li went to the Xia family, the butler of the Xia family called Old Master Li, forcing Old Master Li to bring Old Madame Li to the Xia family to apologize. In the eyes of the older generation, it didn't matter if one's background was poor. It was also good to be clean. However, if one's family background was not good, especially if one was born from an outside wife, and in the end, he could not even tolerate the children of the first wife after marrying into the family. This was already a disgrace, and thus, people looked down on him even more. Therefore, at this moment, Li Jinyan said, "Madam Li, you should know best what kind of person you are." This sentence was so vicious that Madame Li would never forget her background. Du Jiai knew what the minefield in her mother's heart was. As long as this minefield was touched, even she did not dare to casually interrupt. She could only silently support Madame Li, who was trembling with anger, and watch Li Jinyan leave with Yi Qian. The woman beside him is Yi Jifan's niece, right? Jiai, go give your father a call and ask him to investigate who's behind that woman. Also, ask your father to call that woman's school. Madame Li could not make things difficult for Li Jinyan for the time being, so she burned the fire on Yi Qian. Chapter 3082. Du Jiai had investigated Yi Qian before. She replied softly, "Mom, she is studying at the National University of Science and Technology. She doesn't have anyone backing her up. Also, you asked me why I looked so pale when I came home last time. I was mad at her too. I don't know what this woman is capable of. She has charmed all the male soldiers around her. They are all willing to listen to her orders and do things for her. Mom, she's Sun Ying's sister. Since they're all from the same family, it's obvious that she's the same type of person as Sun Ying. They both want to climb up the social ladder and become phoenixes." In front of her mother, there was no need for Du Jiai to feign a side of herself that no one knew about. However, she was also a clever person. When she spoke ill of others, she spoke in a sweet voice without any pretentious pretense, exuding a sense of straightforwardness. She was probably an artistic soldier in a military uniform. "You reminded me. They are sisters from the same family. Aren't they the same kind of people? Don't get involved in this matter. I will handle it myself. After you retire from the military, focus on the postgraduate entrance exam. Don't worry about the outside world. I will handle it myself." Mrs. Li already had a plan in mind. What were military students most afraid of? They were most afraid of relationships outside. She could make use of this opportunity. Seeing how tightly Li Jinyan was protecting her, she wanted to see how long he could protect her for. In the past, she was able to coax her father into taking good things away from her eldest brother. Now, she could also make her eldest brother's son get whatever he wanted. There is no need for the daughter who was going to marry into the Qin family to get involved in this matter. This was to prevent gossip from spreading and displeasing the Qin family. Du Jiai knew what Mrs. Li was hinting at. Before she could say anything, she blushed and said shyly, "Mom, I will do my best to take the postgraduate entrance exam. Auntie Yu said that she hopes that I can work with Qin Xiu in the Foreign Affairs Department. We will have a common language, and it will improve our relationship." The Aunt Yu she mentioned was Qin Xiu's mother, Mrs. Qin. Mrs. Qin didn't want Du Jiai to join the military. She thought that her son and daughter-in-law would be all over the place, and she wouldn't know when she would be able to hold her grandson. Therefore, she tried to ask if Du Jiai was considering retiring from the military. If she was, why not take the postgraduate entrance exam and try to enter the Ministry of Foreign Affairs? Du Jiai was supposed to retire from the military at the end of the year. She planned to re-enter school and re-enter a good unit. So Mrs. Li accepted Mrs. Qin's suggestion. Thus, both sides were happy. Madame Li had a plan in her heart, so she didn't show her anger on her face. She adjusted her expression and went to see the doctor. Over on the other side, Li Jinyan said to Yi Qian, "She might have taken you to heart. I'll get Xia Jinyuan to take precautions in advance to prevent unnecessary trouble for you." "She has taken me to heart?" Yi Qian raised his brows and smiled. "Brother, Du Jiai and Mrs. Li have taken me to heart a long time ago. Du Jiai thinks that I have offended her, so she secretly investigated me. The Leaf family. Family Xia's relationship has always been mediocre. I don't care about their relationship. Yi Qian and Du Jiai had accidentally bumped into Du Jiai at the military headquarters, so she briefly mentioned it to Li Jinyan. However, she didn't mention Mrs. Li. Now that they were meeting again, Yi Qian was already mentally prepared and didn't mind, especially since Mrs. Li had criticized the Fu family's upbringing. If her older brother hadn't pulled her away, she would have rebutted Mrs. Li a long time ago. Li Jinyan was a cautious person, so he made up his mind to tell Xia Jinyuan about what had just happened. After the siblings walked out of the elevator and were about to reach old Master Fu's ward, Yi Qian's footsteps became slower and slower. In front of her, Commander-in-Chief Xia was the first to stare at her with a smile. "Your boyfriend's uncles?" Li Jinyan reminded her in time. Yi Qian suddenly felt that there was too much fluid in her knees. Why did her knees feel weak? Chapter 3083. Subconsciously, Yi Qian looked for Father Fu. If Father Fu was here, Yi Qian would not be so flustered. However, Father Fu was not here. The old man had just left to go to the doctor's office to ask if there were any problems with the test results. Li Jinyan wanted to help, but could not. They were all elders. He wanted to help his sister, but he did not know where to start. He could only say, "Since you're here, take things as they come. Keep your back straight and walk calmly. Don't think too much. They're just here to see Grandpa, not to see you. So take it easy. Don't panic." Yi Qian, whose knees had gone weak, wanted to cry but could not say anything. She maintained a smile on her face and straightened her back as she said to Li Jinyan, "It would have been better if you didn't reveal their identities. Now that you did, I think Khan will also have a psychological barrier. If you don't say it, you won't know. The ignorant are fearless. Only when one is fearless, one will have no psychological burden. Only when one has no psychological burden can one be at ease." Now, how could she be at ease? She was already very calm that she did not turn around and run away. Commander-in-Chief Xia's family had already seen Yi Qian. It could be said that when Yi Qian walked over from the front, the uncles of Family Xia's Family Xia looked straight at him. Family Xia's eldest uncle, Xia Goen, whose sideburns had turned white, was in a high position. His gaze did not reveal his authority. As he stood there, no matter how restrained his aura was, it was enough to make people fear him. His facial features were very similar to Commander-in-Chief Xia's. Because he always maintained a serious expression, there was a line at the corner of his mouth that made him look even more dignified. He was already 65 years old. In the next 2 years, he would retire and be idle at home, accompanying Master Xia and the old madam to enjoy the rest of his life. His eldest son, Xia Lingxiao, was a division commander. He was 19 years older than Xia Jinyuan. He was 45 years old this year, which was also the golden age for men. Family Xia's youngest uncle, Xia Jiaza, was 57 years old this year. He was also the only one among Master Xia's 4 sons who did not join the army. He was a very successful businessman, with a wide range of business dealings and an unimaginable amount of assets. Due to the lack of wind and sun, Uncle Xia Jiaza looked to be in his 40s or 50s at most, which was a few years younger than his actual age. He resembled Madame Dowager. Uncle Xia, who was 57 years old, had a graceful bearing. He did not have the majesty of a soldier, but only the elegance of a scholar. When he saw Yi Qian walking over, he said to Commander-in-Chief Xia, "Third elder brother, sixth brother has better taste than you." Not bad. This girl was pleasing to the eye at first glance. I found her pleasing to the eye. I don't have any greeting gifts. How about I give her a villa in the Red Leaves Villa? It just so happens that we'll be neighbors with Old Fifth's family. Old Fifth was the second son of Family Xia's youngest uncle. He was ranked 5th among the grandchildren. Commander-in-Chief Xia was already used to his brother's generosity. He said calmly, "You have a lot of properties, so I don't mind if you want to give me a house or a car. Anyway, you have a lot of money." 2 days ago, Old Fifth told me that he cleared out 340,000 yuan of moldy cash from the garage. Haha, third elder brother, I'm old. When people get old, their memory gets worse. I really don't remember stuffing money into the garage. You know, I'd rather use it for charity than let the cash go moldy. I've already asked Old Fifth to clear out the money and send it to charity. Commander-in-Chief Xia glanced at his younger brother. He was already 57 years old, and his grandson was already 7 years old. However, he was still as forgetful as when he was young. How did he manage to do such a big business? Could it be that he put all his memory and energy into his business? Chapter 3084. Little Uncle Xia Jiazi expressed that he had no objection at all. If Old Fifth hadn't cleared out the money from the garage, the money would have continued to mold until it became worthless. It was good to use it for charity now. Then I'll give the real estate of Red Leaves Villa to Xiao Yi as a gift from me. She's a very pleasant girl. Sixth brother has always had such good taste. Not bad, just like me. Earlier, he said that old sixth brother had better taste than him. But that was the truth, so he couldn't defend himself. Now, he said something about having good taste. Commander-in-Chief Xia glanced at him coldly and said indifferently, "Like you? You're so forgetful that you can't find it today or tomorrow. Sixth brother doesn't have such a bad habit. You're already so old, but you're still as calculative as before. Big brother and second brother have always given in to me since we were young, but you've never given in to me. Where's the respect between brothers?" Her youngest uncle, Xia Jiazi, had always been a hot-tempered person since he was young. No one knew who he took after. He was also the one who had been beaten up by Old Master Xia, the most among Commander-in-Chief Xia and his brothers. Xia Jinyuan had been a hooligan since he was young, so it could be said that this little uncle had contributed greatly. "Cut it out. What are you talking about?" Eldest Uncle Xia Onghua, who had been silent all this time, interrupted Minister Xia's quarrel with a deep voice. "The younger generation is already here, but you two elders are still not done. Do you want to make a fool of yourselves?" When Minister Xia spoke, even Commander-in-Chief Xia, who had a strong aura, restrained himself a little. The eldest son was in charge. Back then, Master Xia and the old madam were so busy with work that they couldn't take care of their children, so the eldest son, Xia Onghua, took on the responsibility of taking care of his younger siblings. Therefore, even though Commander-in-Chief Xia and Family Xia's little uncle were already in their 50s or 60s, they still respected Minister Xia. As long as Minister Xia said something, the two of them would immediately listen. Hearing this, Commander-in-Chief Xia waved at Yi Qian, who was walking over, and said kindly, "Xiao Yi, Xiao Li, come over here and introduce the two elders in the family to each other. This progress. Third brother, you're really anxious." Family Xia's youngest uncle maintained his benevolent smile as he looked at Yi Qian warmly. His voice was so soft that only the three brothers could hear him. Commander-in-Chief Xia replied calmly, "Of course. Sixth brother's marriage is very important. Sixth brother handled this matter well. He's much better than our generation. He knows to strike first and gain the advantage." Family Xia's uncle nodded and praised his nephew, Xia Jinyuan, who was chatting with the three elders in the ward. Yi Qian, who was walking over, could already tell that the three elders of the Family Xia family were discussing her. It was only a short distance, but she felt more tired and flustered than if she had walked over a mountain. You should face the other two elders the same way you used to face the commander-in-chief. Li Jinyan could tell that his little sister Yi Qian was nervous. This was all he could do to help. "I'll accompany you. Don't get stage fright." How did she face the commander-in-chief in the past? In the past, the first time she called Family Xia, the commander-in-chief received the call and said, "Hello, I'm Xia Xinhui." Then she was so scared that she put down the phone and didn't dare to speak. She immediately disconnected the call and ran away. Later, during military training, she was tricked by Xia Jinyuan. When she opened the car door and saw the commander-in-chief sitting in the back seat, she restrained herself for a long time before she could stop herself from running away. She pretended to be calm and got into the car. Later on, they slowly got along with each other and found out that Commander-in-Chief Xia was an approachable elder in private. In addition, they got along more often and heard that he often tricked Captain Xia. Gradually, They were not as restrained as before. Chapter 3085. But today was different. She was suddenly faced with two other elders of family Xia, without any mental preparation. It would be strange if she didn't panic when she wasn't prepared at all. It seemed that people of family Xia all had one thing in common. They liked to make surprise attacks. Since the commander-in-chief signaled for Yi Qian to go over, it was impossible for Yi Qian to slow down even if she wanted to. Li Jinyan, who was walking with her, couldn't help but tilt his head slightly, and the corners of his mouth curved into a faint smile. After walking over, she smiled slightly at the other two elders, and then said to Commander-in-Chief Xia, "Commander-in-Chief, sorry to trouble you to come over again." Commander-in-Chief Xia smiled and said, "It's not trouble. Since Old Master is awake, I naturally have to come over to see him. Grandpa and Grandma are also here. Sixth brother is accompanying them to talk to Old Master. Let me introduce you and your sister to the other two elders of the family." Under Commander-in-Chief Xia's gesture, Yi Qian first got to know her uncle, Minister Xianghua. "This is your uncle. He's also a familiar face. You should have seen him often on TV when you were in school." He then said to Li Jinyan, "Xiao Li, you must be familiar with him, right?" "Hello, Minister Xia." Li Jinyan reached out and politely shook hands with Minister Xia. "I'm Yi Qian's brother, Li Jinyan. Thank you for coming to visit my grandfather." "Hello, uncle. I'm Yi Qian. Thank you for coming to visit my grandfather." Yi Qian, who braced herself to go up, didn't dare to be rude. She bowed and politely addressed Minister Xia as uncle, just like Xia Jinyuan. "Old Master Fu is a person of virtue and prestige. It's only right that we come and visit him. We're family, so there's no need to be so polite." Minister Xia nodded slightly, and there was a satisfied smile in his serious eyes. One was Old Master Fu's grandson, and the other was Old Master Fu's biological granddaughter. When the two siblings stood together in their military uniforms, it was as if everything in front of them had brightened up. Although Old Master Fu didn't have many descendants, his grandson and granddaughter were all dragons and phoenixes among men. He was much better than those who had many children and grandchildren, but all of them were idle. Department head Xia had always respected Old Master Fu. Now that he had such a relationship with Old Master Fu, he looked at the siblings in front of him. No matter how he looked at them, he felt that they were very nice. Then, the gentle smile in his eyes deepened. "I often hear your father and sixth brother talking about you at home. It's my fault for not being able to meet you today." She was a very proper girl with clear eyebrows and bright eyes. Her temperament was calm, and she did not lose her military prestige. Although she was a little flustered by their appearance, she was not so flustered that she did not know where to look. She was relatively calm. Sixth brother indeed had better foresight than his father. When it was time to introduce his youngest uncle, Xia Jiaza immediately offered a villa, which completely stunned Yi Qian. The property prices in the capital were already quite high. Even though she had only been to the capital a few times, she knew that the villa at Red Leaf Villa was one of the most expensive in the entire capital. Yi Jian's first reaction was to reject the offer of a villa. She firmly rejected it. Commander-in-Chief Xia said, "Your youngest uncle has so much money that it's moldy. As long as the younger generation in the family gets married, he will give each of them a property. This is youngest uncle's gift to you. Take it, don't refuse. Take it, don't refuse." Yi Qian's back was sweating. How could she accept it? Even if she accepted it, she wouldn't be able to afford it. Just the high property management fees alone were not something she could afford. Commander-in-Chief Xia saw that she firmly refused. He thought for a moment and thought of something else. He said to his youngest uncle, Xia Jiaza, "Xiao Yi really can't accept it. The property management fees for that villa are not a small sum. She's still a student and can't afford it." Chapter 3086. Upon hearing this, Yi Qian heaved a sigh of relief. She didn't dare to accept it, and she definitely wouldn't accept it. That meant she didn't have to worry about being accepted. That's true. I didn't think about it. Xia Jiazi also realized that he couldn't afford to raise her. Then I might as well give. Uncle, you don't have to give us anything. Even if you give us something now, it'll just be empty. The door to the ward opened, and Xia Jinyuan came out with old Madame Yi. Master Xia didn't come out and was still chatting with old Master Fu. You two brothers are not allowed to make things difficult for Xiao Yi. Do you hear me? Old Madame Yi came out and didn't ask anything. She first protected her favorite granddaughter-in-law under her wings. I told you not to come over. You'll scare Xiao Yi, but you didn't listen and insisted on coming over. If you want to make things difficult for Xiao Yi, I don't care if you two brothers are old. I'll scold you all the same. Before eldest Minister Xia and youngest Uncle Xia Jiazi could speak, old Madame Yi took Yi Qian's hand and said kindly, Xiao Yi, don't be afraid of them. If they make things difficult for you, tell Grandma. Grandma will stand up for you. It was Li Jinyan's first time seeing how family Xia interacted with each other. He was stunned and couldn't believe what he was seeing and hearing. Old Madame Yi was talking about a minister and a successful businessman in front of the younger generation. Was it appropriate? Old Madame Yi thought it was quite appropriate. Yi Qian finally understood why Commander-in-Chief Xia always liked to make things difficult for Captain Xia in front of her. It was because of her family background. She quickly said, Grandma, no. Eldest uncle, youngest uncle is very good to me. Afraid that old Madame Yi wouldn't believe her and would continue to make things difficult for the two elders, Yi Qian added, Youngest uncle just said that he would give me a villa. Don't misunderstand such a good uncle. Your youngest uncle is very generous to the family. If the family lacks anything, your youngest uncle will make up for it without hesitation. Whenever the younger generation in the family gets married or has a good relationship with them, he will give them a greeting gift. This is a small token from him as an elder. You should accept it. Don't feel burdened. Because Xia Jinyuan didn't have a mother to take care of him when he was young, the old madam favored Xia Jinyuan the most among her grandchildren. Before Yi Qian married into the family, the old madam smiled and began to make plans for Yi Qian. This is a small token of appreciation from youngest uncle. You should accept it. If you don't accept it, you'll be regarded as an outsider. Xia Jiazi laughed. Mom, third brother, just said that if I give the villa to sixth brother and his wife, they won't be able to afford the property fees with their current salary and allowance. If you can't give them a villa, why don't you give them a piece of land? You don't have to pay the property fees for a piece of land, right? The old madam was a calculative person. Xia Jinyuan, Yi Qian, and Li Jinyan saw that their youngest uncle Xia Jiazi was stunned. After a while, he said, Mom, you really like to dig a hole for us. Then you stand there and smile as you wait for us to jump into it. Our younger sister is the only one in the family who has inherited your skills. Even if we live for another few decades, we might not be your match. The old madam pretended not to hear what he said. She smiled and asked Yi Qian, What about your eldest uncle? Did he make things difficult for you? Don't be afraid. With Grandma here, nothing will happen. With Grandma here, Li Jinyan quietly took a small step back and quickly entered the ward when no one was looking. He really couldn't listen in. The more he listened to the family elders' conversation, the more he trembled. Chapter 3087. And this kind of conversation was very heartwarming. So heartwarming that it made him, who had been walking in a cold world and whose only source of light was his uncle and grandfather, envious. It turned out that family could chat in such a relaxed and humorous manner. In such a warm family, his younger sister would definitely not be wronged after marrying in. She would be loved and cared for by the family Xia and would not be wronged in the slightest. The family Xia had enough ability to protect his younger sister. Even if the mastermind behind his aunt's death appeared, he would have to think twice. His future brother-in-law, Li Jinyan, the Devil King Li, was even more satisfied with his future brother-in-law. It had to be said that the family Xia was a godly help. Outside, Yi Qian heard the old madam's question and his heart skipped a beat. After a while, he felt relieved. Looking at the old madam's kind and wise eyes, Yi Qian smiled and said, Grandma, why would Uncle make things difficult for me? You, don't worry about me. Uncle looks very serious, just like when I first met Commander-in-Chief Xia and didn't dare to speak loudly. In fact, Uncle is just like Commander-in-Chief Xia. They both look serious, but they are very kind. It was a very intimate tone with a hint of coquettishness. The old madam immediately felt very comfortable. She smiled until the wrinkles at the corners of her eyes deepened. Yes, yes, yes. Grandma knew that you were intelligent. See, you hit the nail on the head. That's right. Your uncle is just like your father. They both look serious, but they are not serious in private. That's right. That's right. Why would a family need to be so courteous? As a family, they should be affectionate. They should say whatever they wanted to say. The words that came out of their mouths couldn't hurt the other person's self-esteem or the harmony of the other person. The people who were listening had to be kind too. After all, they were all a family with the same bloodline. They didn't have so many scruples and didn't have so many thoughts. She liked this child, Xiao Yi. She was clean and upright. She had to protect such a good granddaughter-in-law well. However, Xiao Yi also needed to change a little. She was a little too thoughtful. It was not good to be so thoughtful at such a young age. It would hurt her foundation. She had to change. She couldn't be blamed for thinking too much. After hearing about her past, it was already amazing that she could survive. Growing up in that kind of environment, it was normal for her to think too much. But now, things are different. With her family Xia protecting her, the demons of the past and the future would not be able to get close to her. It was easy to tell her not to think too much. He wanted her to know that no matter when, her family was her warm home, and everyone in her family could be used to stand up for her and make fun of her. After a long time, she would experience the warmth of her family and get along with her family. Naturally, she would not think too much. Yi Qian made the old madam beam with joy, and so did the rest of the elders. The happiest person was Xia Jinyuan. Just now, he could tell from Yi Jian's tone that she was acting coquettishly toward her grandmother. She didn't even keep a distance from her. Today, old Xia did a great thing right. Sixth brother, sit with grandma for a while. We're going to visit old Master Fu. Commander-in-Chief Xia, whose eyes were full of smiles, instructed his son to take good care of the old madam. He then said to Yi Qian, Xiao Yi, accompany us to visit old Master Fu again. Sit for a while and leave. Don't disturb old Master Fu's rest. Old Master Fu was very happy to see family Xia and her family visit. Commander-in-Chief Xia, Minister Xia, and youngest Uncle Xia Jiaza had important matters to attend to, so they stayed in the ward for about 10 minutes before leaving. Old Master Fu instructed his grandson, Li Jinyan, to send them off. This was the Fu family's etiquette. The three elders asked Li Jinyan to only send them off to the inpatient department before gesturing for him to go back and take care of old Master Fu. Chapter 3088. Before the car drove over, Minister Xiao walked to a shady path with few pedestrians. He stood under a tree and said, when they graduate, they can indeed consider marriage. Sixth brother has found a good girlfriend. It's rare for them to be like-minded and have a lot in common. I noticed that when sixth brother spoke, Xiao Yi would listen carefully. Her expression was very gentle, and there was admiration in her eyes. When Xiao Yi spoke, sixth brother's expression and eyes were the same as Xiao Ye's. The two of them not only love each other, but also respect each other. I saw the love of sharing honor and disgrace, and helping each other in times of need from them, just like old master and old madam. Uncle Xia Jiaza nodded slightly in agreement and added, there's one more thing. She's not moved by money. When she said that she refused, she didn't just say it. Her body and mind refused. She was very firm and not moved at all. When I saw her so firm before, I thought she didn't know the market price of Red Leaf Villa. Later, when third brother mentioned that the property fee was expensive, I saw the understanding in her eyes. Only then did I realize that she knew. Third brother, you're blessed to have found such a good daughter-in-law. Sixth brother is also blessed to have a wife in his arms and a successful career. They can complement each other. Third brother, you don't have to worry about anything. Minister Xia and Uncle Xia were not being polite. Xia Jinyuan had already sent a letter home saying that he would bring his wife back to celebrate old madam's birthday. According to the rules of family Xia, if a man with a family Xia brought his girlfriend back to celebrate his elder's birthday, it meant that she was the daughter-in-law he would marry in the future. With such an old rule, Minister Xia and Uncle Xia had always wanted to meet Yi Qian so that they could help their nephew check. If the girl didn't make it, they would let their wife come forward and let the girl back off. The family background of the girl their nephew found were not the main point. The main point was whether her character was good or not. As for whether the girl's character was good or not, they were a little worried that their nephew would be like his father, who only looked at the surface and not the inside. They were worried that Xia Jinyuan would find a girl who would cause trouble at home. With the previous incident as an example, he dared not let his guard down. Therefore, no matter how satisfied Commander-in-Chief Xia and Xia Jinyuan were when they mentioned Yi Qian, even when their niece Xia Yiwei was full of praise when she mentioned Yi Qian, the two elders did not immediately express their opinions. They did not say a word about it. No wonder I heard the magpies chirping in the backyard early in the morning. So it was really a happy occasion. Third brother, Yui, and sixth brother are really patient. You only told us today that Xiao Yi is old Master Fu's granddaughter. Uncle Xia looked back at the main entrance of the hospital with a smile in his eyes. This hospital is finally pleasing to my eyes. Find some time to tell me about Xiao Yi in detail. Thinking about what happened this morning, Minister Xia felt that it was a little unbelievable. At around 6 o'clock in the morning, they received a call from third brother Xia Yui, saying that old Master Fu had undergone surgery and was admitted to the hospital. Later, Master Xia told them that if they were free, they could visit old Master Fu together. When they met up, they found out that sixth brother's girlfriend was actually old Master Fu's granddaughter. This was unheard of. She was actually old Master Fu's granddaughter. About half a year ago, they did a DNA test and confirmed their relationship. Chapter 3089. Suddenly knowing such a big thing, Leader Xia and Uncle Xia, the two elders who had never changed their expressions, were stunned for a while. Due to time constraints, they didn't go into detail. They only listened to Commander-in-Chief Xia pick out the main points. In short, the future niece-in-law that they were very satisfied with was old Master Fu's granddaughter. There was no mistake about it. Commander-in-Chief Xia originally wanted to continue hiding Yi Qian's identity. After all, they were still investigating, and the death of martyr son Xueqing had entered the most critical period. He didn't want his family to know about the relationship between Yi Qian and the Fu family. He didn't expect old master and old madam to suddenly do this. I originally wanted to tell the family about Xiao Ye's matter later. Since you know about it now, please keep it a secret for the time being. Especially on your side, Jiaza. You're a businessman, and there are many people around you. If you reveal a little, it might be known to everyone. However, we don't want people to know too much. Because they were in the hospital, even if there was no one around 10 meters away from them, Commander-in-Chief Xia still lowered his voice a lot. His face also showed a dignified expression that made Leader Xia and Family Xia's Uncle Xia's heart turn solemn. Her situation can't be explained in a few words. Sometimes it involves confidential matters. I can't say much. Uncle Xia immediately said, then I choose not to listen. I know that Xiao Ye's relationship with the Fu family can't be revealed. I know that Xiao Ye's relationship with the family Xia and the Fu family can't be mentioned to outsiders. I just need to know the two most important points. Family Xia's Uncle Xia would never ask about confidential matters. Their statuses were different, and he had responsibilities. He would never ask about things that he shouldn't know. As a businessman, he didn't need to know about confidential matters. Although Minister Xia was the leader of the national defense, martyr son Xueqing's matter was a military matter. He was in a high position and couldn't know about it. After a moment of silence, he said to Commander-in-Chief Xia, then you don't have to tell me in detail. I don't need to know too much about your military matters. No, big brother. Our military will have a meeting with the Ministry of National Defense in a few days. As he spoke, Commander-in-Chief Xia pointed to the front and said to Family Xia's youngest uncle, "The car is here to pick you up. Get in first. I'll go with Big Brother." She wanted to avoid Family Xia's uncle. Family Xia's uncle didn't stay any longer and immediately left. "You guys talk. I'll go to the side and wait for Yinny." He finally got to see Chief Engineer Fu Yuxing, so I'm afraid he won't come down for a while. First, it was the military, then it was the national defense. Listening to it, everyone felt that the matter of Xiaoya's mother was not simple. They could not get involved in such a matter before it was clear. After Family Xia's youngest uncle left, Commander-in-Chief Xia could finally say something. The military has submitted the request for the Ministry of National Defense's assistance in the investigation the day before yesterday. If everything goes well, it will be submitted to your office today or tomorrow. Big Brother, this matter is no longer a trivial matter. The problems involved in it are likely to be another big storm. You have to be mentally prepared. Hearing Xiao Anghua's words, Minister Xia frowned. How is it related to the Ministry of National Defense? Are there any details about martyr's son Xueqing's sacrifice in the report? Yes, you'll know when you see it. It's not convenient to talk about it here. We'll talk about it in the conference room when you receive the report. Okay. Minister Xia nodded in a deep voice and said, "I'll go back to the old house in a few days. If Xiaoya is free, ask Sixth Brother to take her back to the old house and let the family meet her." Chapter 3090. Commander-in-Chief Xia shook his head and smiled. "I'm afraid there isn't enough time. Old Master Fu needs someone to take care of him. Xiaoyi is also a filial child. She won't go anywhere to take care of Old Master Fu. I'll ask Sixth Brother to stay and help. I don't want Xiaoyi to tire herself out. They have to meet each other so that we can recognize each other. Don't create a scene where we don't recognize each other when we meet outside. If it's not convenient now, let's do it next time. You have to worry more about Old Master Fu. You should arrange for 2 more guards to come over. 2 guards will be on duty during the day. What about at night? Won't Xiao Yi and Chief Engineer Fu be the ones to worry about? The Fu and Xia families will be one family in the future. Old Master Fu and Old Master Fu have known each other for decades. The Fu family's matters are our family Xia's matters. Pay more attention and let Xiao Yi know that our family Xia and Sixth Brother can entrust the rest of their lives to her." Master Xia, who was still in the ward, said the same thing to Old Master Fu. "You should rest well. Your matters are our family's matters. You can't separate yourself from our family just because you're afraid of troubling us. It's the same for Xiao Yi when she comes to our house in the future. We're family, so don't be too polite. If you're too polite, it'll make us seem distant." Xia Jinyuan and Yi Qian stood beside the hospital bed. Xia Jinyuan accompanied Master Xia, while Yi Qian accompanied Matriarch Xia. Li Jinyan listened with a slight smile while peeling fruits. There were already 4 pears in the fruit bowl in front of him. Yi Qian smiled and said, "Grandpa Xia, I'm really not being polite with you. Grandma Xia also told me that we shouldn't be polite with each other as family. I remembered it." Matriarch Xia, whose white hair was neatly combed, gently patted Yi Qian's hand and nodded with a smile. "That's right. Xiaoyi has already remembered what I said. There's no need to be polite with our family Xia." "Ha, that's right, that's right." Master Xia laughed heartily. Seeing that his good friend was tired after a long morning, Master Xia adjusted his friend's blanket and said with a relaxed expression, "You, rest well. When your body is better, we'll play a few more rounds together. It's getting late. Have a good rest. I'll come to see you tomorrow. Let's chat and relieve your boredom." Old Master Fu was indeed a little tired, but he did not feel tired at all. The kind smile on his face did not disappear. "Don't come tomorrow. It's hard for an old man like you. Sister-in-law Rong, please advise her not to come again tomorrow. It's fine as long as I have your Sixth Brother here. Since you're so willing, then I won't be polite with you. My grandson, Jin Yin, has to return to the team in the afternoon. There's only Jane Eyre and her father watching over him. It's really too busy." I fell at the wrong time. Jane Eyre has to stay in the hospital with me. I can't even walk around. It's all my fault for holding them back. Grandpa, when you've recovered, I'll accompany you wherever you want to go. Yi Qian did not want old Master Fu to feel burdened. Taking care of the elderly was a filial duty that children and descendants should do. How could he say anything about holding them back? Xia Jinyuan was used to coaxing the elderly. When he heard this, he smiled and said, "You can't say that I'm holding them back. I was afraid that you wouldn't let me stay. I'll only feel at ease if you let me stay. Otherwise, I'll be worried that you won't let me stay because you're not satisfied with me and want to change your grandson-in-law." Chapter 3091. I'm satisfied, I'm very satisfied. Old Master Fu was so pleased by his future grandson-in-law that even his eyes lit up. Hurry up and send your grandfather home. I'll wait here for you to come back and accompany your grandfather. At this point, it could be said that Yi Qian and Xia Jinyuan's relationship had already been made known to the elders of the two families. There was no need to be secretive about it anymore. Moreover, as long as there was no problem between the two of them, their marriage was set in stone. Li Jinyan had already peeled the fragrant pears. The three elders each ate a pear before saying goodbye. Xia Jinyuan and Yi Qian each supported an elder as they walked out of the ward. Old Madame Fu said to Yi Qian, "You don't have to send us home. Our third brother is on leave. He can accompany us home after he chats with your father. Just send us downstairs and take good care of your grandfather." She then said to Xia Jinyuan, "Same for you. You don't have to send us home. Let your third brother send us home. Sixth brother, you're the backbone now. You have to be responsible for everything. You can't tire Xiao Yi out, and you can't let your father-in-law worry. Do you hear me?" Xia Jinyuan nodded repeatedly. Facing the old man's nagging, there was no trace of impatience on his handsome face. Instead, there was only attentiveness and patience in front of the old man. This made the originally fierce soldier much gentler. Yi Qian liked this kind of Xia Jinyuan very much. He was so dependable that it made her feel at ease. When they arrived downstairs, Li Jinyan called to say that their grandfather had fallen asleep and asked her to send Master Xia and old Madame Xia home. In the end, she didn't manage to send them off. After chatting with Father Fu, Xia Yui returned to the ward. When he found out that the two elders had left and that old Master Fu had fallen asleep, he didn't stay. He said goodbye to Father Fu and quickly walked out of the inpatient department. Xia Yui was 31 years old this year, 5 years older than Xia Jinyuan. At 31 years old, he was already the chief engineer of a missile in a base in the northwest. He also had the advantages of a man from a family Xia. He was handsome, and when he walked through the hall of the inpatient department, he attracted a lot of attention. Yi Qian had never met Xia Yui before. When she went to see the specialist, Xia Yui first greeted old Master Fu. Because of some work matters, he went to a corner with Father Fu and used paper to communicate with him. Now, the paper used for the communication was in a document file, ready to be destroyed when they got back. It was also the first time he had seen Yi Qian. Because of his profession, he appeared very self-conscious and serious. But Yi Qian recognized him as soon as he walked over because he had a pair of eyes that resembled his youngest uncle's. The corners of his eyes were slightly raised, and there was a hint of a smile that wasn't a smile. It was this hint of a smile that added some gentleness to his serious expression. Especially when he spoke, he seemed very approachable. This was Yi Qian's second time interacting with Xia Jinyuan's peers. Previously, it was Xia Yiwei, and now it was Xia Yui. Although they both looked distant, they were actually very easy to talk to. After a short conversation, Xia Yui accompanied Master Xia and old Madame Fu to the car and left. Before he left, he said to Yi Qian, "In the future, if old Six bullies you, give third brother, second brother, and eldest brother a call. The three of us will take care of him for you." That one sentence made Yi Qian feel the kindness and warmth of a family Xia. Meeting Captain Xia in her life was truly her greatest fortune in this lifetime. Captain Xia said that he was very lucky to have met her. Actually, it should be the other way around. She was very lucky to have met him. Chapter 3092. When she arrived at the ward, old Master Fu was sound asleep. Father Fu had his head lowered and was saying something to Li Jinyan. Yi Qian had just pushed the door open and was about to enter when Father Fu waved at her and Xia Jinyuan, indicating for them to go outside first. Take his temperature every half an hour. If his temperature is normal and his breathing is normal, it means that everything is fine. If his breathing is rapid or his body temperature is high, press the bell immediately to call the doctor over. Although everything is fine now, he's old and his immune system is not as good as a young person's. The possibility of complications is high, so you have to be careful at all times. I'm going out to talk to your sister and the others about something. You stay here. Father Fu carefully reminded his nephew and made sure that he did not miss anything before leaving the ward. Yi Qian, who was standing outside, saw Father Fu come out and asked softly, "Dad, what do you want to talk to us about? Is it about Grandpa? Is there a problem?" She was a little uneasy and worried that something was wrong with old Master Fu. There was a hint of anxiety on her usually calm face. Xia Jinyuan gently held her hand and told her not to be so nervous. Yi Qian had already grasped the strong warmth in his palm tightly, as if relying on the warmth from his palm to support her. Father Fu saw their small movements and raised his eyes slightly. He sighed and said, "Jane Eyre, you're too nervous. Grandpa's fine. Everything is fine. If something really happens, you have to let nature take its course. Don't overthink it. It's not a good thing for you to overthink. Dad hopes that you can relax and accept everything calmly." Yi Qian smiled bitterly. She also wanted to accept everything calmly. Sometimes, she knew that she cared too much and lost her cool, but she longed for a family reunion. She longed for the family affection that she had now to last for a long time. Her heart, which had been empty for 2 lifetimes, had finally been filled. She did not want any more accidents to happen. She did not want to lose any more family members. "Dad, I know I'm too nervous. Actually, I also want to face it calmly. However, whenever I think that something might happen to Grandpa and that I might lose Grandpa, I can't help but feel afraid. I can't help but overthink." There was too much helplessness and too much desire in her words. When it came to kinship, Yi Qian was like a traveler in a desert under the sun. She had walked for too long and too far. She longed for an oasis to appear so that her journey could end. Father Fu's heart ached when he heard this. The reason why his precious daughter was so scared and insecure was because of the shadow left behind in her childhood. Now, those culprits who had left a deep shadow in her heart had been punished one by one, and the shadow in her heart should disappear. Believe me, there won't be anything that will hurt you again. Everything will develop in a good direction. Our life will only get better and better. Jane Eyre, you have to believe in me. Father Fu pointed to the chairs outside the ward. "Sit down. I have something to tell you." It was indeed something to be happy about. When Yi Qian heard that Yi Jifan had been sentenced to death, she was stunned by the sudden news. After she slowly regained her senses, she asked in a trembling voice, "Dad, has it been confirmed? Is he really sentenced to death?" "Of course. I went to the court with your Uncle Chun to listen to the judge's verdict. Also, Sun Dongqing will be sentenced to 10 years in prison. You won't have to worry about them jumping out to cause trouble again." After 2 lifetimes, Yi Jifan's outcome had finally reversed the tragedy of her previous life. At this moment, Yi Qian did not cry. Instead, she smiled like a flower. Chapter 30-93. On the day of Yi Jifan's execution, the sun had yet to rise. The sky outside the window was as blue as jade. It was a very good day, and even the air was so fresh that it seemed to have been filtered. That day, Yi Qian woke up early and helped Old Master Yi wash up, then had breakfast with him. Old Master Yi had the habit of reading the morning papers, so the grandfather and grandson quietly read the morning papers together. After chatting for a while, Yi Qian didn't leave the ward until Old Master Yi fell asleep. Li Jinyan had returned to the army 3 days ago, and Xia Jinyuan had returned to the Snowfield Brigade base yesterday afternoon. Now, Old Master Yi only had Yi Qian and Father Fu to take care of him. But Yi Qian was going to start school the day after tomorrow, so she had to return to school before 5 p.m. At that time, Old Master Yi would only have Father Fu and 4 guards to take care of him. It was already 10 a.m. Yi Qian walked out of the ward and reminded the guards to keep an eye on Old Master Ye's condition. Then she took the elevator and left alone. Today was the day Yi Zhifan's execution. It was 11:30 a.m. sharp. From then on, Yi Zhifan would no longer exist in this world. Even the traces he left behind would slowly disappear with the passage of time, and the hurt that Yi Zhifan had caused her in the past. She believed that with time, it would also slowly disappear. All the hurt, insults, blame, indifference, anger, and disdain she had suffered all those years ago would eventually disappear with Yi Zhifan. The hatred from her previous life would also be released in this life. Finally, Yi Zhifan would forever be a passerby in her life. He would never bring her any harm again. Never again. Yi Qian stood in the pavilion behind the inpatient department, facing south. She stood there motionlessly, watching. To the south was the southern province. Yi Zhifan would be executed there. There were still 34 minutes until 11 a.m., but she had already been standing there for nearly 20 minutes. In September, the capital was no longer as stuffy as it was in the summer, but the cicadas in the trees were still chirping endlessly, making the entire backyard very lively. But to Yi Qian, the surroundings seemed to be blocked from her. Even the small pavilion where she stood seemed to be cut off from the rest of the world. Yi Qian was not thinking about anything else. Her mind was completely blank. She was waiting for 11 o'clock, waiting for Yi Zhifan's death. As the time approached, Yi Zhifan, whose hands and feet were still handcuffed, began to feel uneasy. His hand that was holding the spoon went from steady to slightly trembling, but now, he simply tossed the spoon aside and used his hands to stuff the food on the plate into his mouth, mouthful by mouthful. The most sumptuous meal he had ever had since he was imprisoned was also his last meal. It was time for him to be on his way after he finished his last meal, which meant that he would no longer be able to see the sun of the next day. His life had entered its final countdown. He stuffed his mouth full to the point where even his tongue could not move easily. His mouth was bulging, and his teeth were grinding against each other until he finished all the food in his mouth. Outside, 2 bailiffs stood expressionlessly. Beside them stood a medical examiner in a white coat. This was the medical examiner who had injected him with the drug. He had carried out an execution by lethal injection, which was used as an alternative to execution by shooting. It was first stipulated in the criminal procedure law in January 1997 that it was a non-lethal poison method. The time of death after the injection was short, usually between 30 to 60 seconds. There was no physical pain, and it was not as bloody as execution by shooting. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.